Part 19. Finn Taylor waved Josie Meyer off, not wanting to talk to her. Since she hates everything that I do and thinks that I bear no good intentions, there's no point in me staying any longer. Just as he was about to shut the door, Michelle Yeller rushed forward. Hold on, Mr. Taylor. The man turned back, and the young lady walked into his apartment. I'm so sorry, Mr. Taylor. Josie. Finn Taylor waved her off. It's all right, I know you want to say that she doesn't have any ill intentions, but I guess we just don't click. Michelle Yeller shook her head. No, I want to apologize on her behalf. Her words were a little harsh, but I hope you don't take them to heart. Finn Taylor picked up a bottled beverage and handed it to the other. That's not your fault, you don't have to apologize for her. The young girl shrugged and placed the beverage down before tidying up the place a little. Michelle, did you move here for your studies or to get a job? Finn Taylor thought well of the young girl and wanted to recommend her a job at the Larson Corporation. That way, he would be able to get news about the company through her. However, he wasn't sure if she would be willing to work in the company. After all, everyone knew that the Larson Corporation was on the verge of bankruptcy. Mr. Taylor, I'm here to get a job. I'm thinking of giving it a shot at the Larson Corporation. What surprised Finn Taylor was that Michelle Yeller had brought up the matter before he could even ask her about it. The Larson Corporation, it's about to go under, so why would you want to work there? Finn Taylor was curious about that. Actually, Josie was the one who suggested it. People like us who have no connections will be relegated to doing menial chores in other companies, and we'll never be able to rise up through the ranks. But if we join the Larson Corporation while they're on the brink of collapsing, we'll definitely become part of the higher management if the company pulls through. These words made the man change his opinion toward Josie Meyer. He had never thought that the latter would have such insights. What do you think? Do you want to work in the Larson Corporation too? What will you do if the company really goes under? The young lady shrugged. We're nobodies anyway. What we're looking for are just jobs that will put food on the table. I don't mind taking this bet. All right, you've convinced me. All the best. You guys will definitely get the jobs. Michelle Yeller glanced at the clock. It's about time for us to leave and get ready for the interview. I won't disturb you any more then, Mr. Taylor. She waved goodbye to the man before leaving. Once she left, Finn Taylor made a call to David Sullivan to inform him that two young ladies would be turning up for an interview. Michelle Yeller was to be assigned to Yvette Larson as her secretary, and Josie Meyer was to be assigned to the Public Relations Department as a secretary. Although Finn Taylor had already left the company, it was still within his control. At the same time, Yvette Larson headed out to her best friend's house before driving to the Starbucks they had agreed to meet at. By the time the two best friends arrived, Willow Stone was already there. Clarine Landon wanted to rush up to confront her, but Yvette Larson held her back. The latter shook her head, and it was only then that the former tried to suppress her emotions. The pair strolled over and took their seats. 2 cups of cappuccino, Willow Stone ordered. Clarine Landon sneered. So you still remember what we like? The other smiled. Of course, you're my best friends. Best friends? Is this how you treat your best friend? By getting together with her husband? Willow Stone picked up her cup of coffee and smirked. What can I do? You couldn't even handle your own husband. On the other hand, Yvette Larson was calm. She said only one word, why? However, that word encapsulated so much. Why is your boyfriend Finn? Why do you have to like your best friend's husband? Why do you want to meet me since you're already with Finn? Willow Stone replied with a seemingly unrelated question. Is your coffee bitter? The other replied, yes, so. Willow Stone downed her cup of coffee. I've added loads of sugar in mine, so it's sweet. Don't be fooled by what's on the surface, Yvette. She then stood up and turned to leave, but Clarine Landon caught up to her. Willow, what are you trying to say? The third of the best friends was left sitting there in a daze. She seemed to be lost in thought. After a long while, she came to a sudden realization. So that's the case. Her best friend was still lost. Clarine, we maligned Finn and Willow. However, the other was still dazed. Yvette, don't be taken in by her words. Didn't you catch her with Finn? What do you mean by maligning them? Yvette Larson replied in a low voice, let me tell you a secret. Her best friend loved gossip and quickly rushed over. Finn offended the Taylor siblings, and they swore to break his family apart. Finn put on an act with Willow and pretended to get a divorce from me to protect me. Think about it, we have to submit those papers for the divorce to be legally recognized, otherwise, everything will be fake. These words seemed to turn Clarine Landon's world upside down. She had been worried sick about her best friend, yet it seemed like it was all for naught. Clarine, You mustn't say a thing about this. Once word gets out, we'll be done for. We must fool the Taylor siblings. Maybe we'll be able to help Finn then. Clarine Landon nodded seriously. She still liked Finn Taylor, so she would definitely do all she could to help him. Levi Taylor held a photo out to his sister. Sis, look, is she pretty? Melanie Taylor merely glanced at it. Isn't that the wife of that piece of trash? Why? Levi Taylor chuckled. They got a divorce. His sister was dumbfounded. A divorce? His wife chased him out. Melanie Taylor didn't care about Finn Taylor's personal life, and that was why she had only just found out about the latter's divorce. Sis, what do you think that piece of trash will think if I manage to woo that woman? Melanie Taylor immediately retorted him, you better not play around. This isn't Southeast Asia, you don't have any elders protecting you. Levi Taylor was used to doing as he pleased in Southeast Asia. After all, there was nothing anyone could do to him. However, this wasn't Southeast Asia. Who knew what would happen to him if he were to fool around here? Don't worry, sis, I don't like to force myself onto others. I'll win over her heart and then her body. That's how I roll. Melanie Taylor wasn't going to interfere in her brother's affairs as long as he knew his limits and didn't do anything against the law. Besides, nobody could escape her brother's grasp once they caught his eye. Michelle Yeller and Josie Meyer arrived at the Larson Corporation. What shocked them was that they were led to the CEO David Sullivan's office after reporting their names. It was the CEO of the company who personally conducted their interview. That naturally puzzled Michelle Yeller, but her best friend simply thought that they were exceptional talents whom the company wanted to cultivate. I have just one question. The Larson Corporation is facing an unprecedented crisis, so many companies have sent corporate spies over to try to take a share of the pie. How can you convince me that you guys aren't spies? David Sullivan asked an acute question. An average candidate wouldn't have been able to answer this question and might have even left immediately after hearing the question. It was no different from doubting one's loyalty. In that case, it was best not to work there. However, Josie Meyer was different. She felt that she was being questioned exactly because she was a talent they wanted to groom. I'm sorry, but I think your company is in such a bad state that there's no need for any spies to come here. Her answer rendered her interviewer speechless. Who would tell the CEO of a company during an interview that the company sucks? Aren't you asking for a beating? Michelle Yeller was trembling inwardly, but to her surprise, the CEO said, congratulations. You're both hired. Am I hearing things? This hired? Wasn't Josie insulting them earlier? But they're still hiring us. What the young girl didn't know was that David Sullivan had no way to reject them. Finn Taylor had called him earlier and had even instructed him on the designations for the two young ladies. You're Josie Meyer, right? You're quite eloquent, so I'll send you to the Public Relations Department to be the secretary of the manager there. As for you, Michelle Yeller, you look rather obedient. I'm sure you know of Yvette Larson, our previous chairman and the only daughter of our current chairman. You'll be her secretary. Why am I being sent to the Public Relations Department while Michelle gets to stay in the chairman's office? Do I look like someone who will give myself up for the company's sake? Needless to say, Josie Meyer was indignant. I refuse. I'm not going to the Public Relations Department. David Sullivan chuckled. That's not for you to decide. You can either go to the Public Relations Department or leave. He pointed at the door. There was no way he was going to compromise, even if Finn Taylor turned up. If he didn't even have the authority to make this decision as a CEO, the company would be doomed. Josie Meyer clenched her fist, feeling injustice. Yet, there was nothing she could do. She couldn't possibly leave the company. The Larson Corporation was her chance of turning her life around. Fine, I'll go to the Public Relations Department. Will that do? She stood up and asked, how do I get there? The CEO turned to the man beside him. Ken, bring the newcomers around the company and introduce them to everyone. He then left and returned to his office to call his boss. Mr. Taylor, the two ladies have been hired. How's it going? Is Josie Meyer difficult to deal with? She isn't just difficult to deal with. She's a whole character. I asked her why she was here at our company and how I could be sure that she wasn't a spy. Guess what she said? I'm sure I won't be able to guess the answer, but it must have been sharp. Yes, she said that the Larson Corporation is trash and that nobody would bother sending any spies here. Finn Taylor burst out into laughter upon hearing that. Find them later and tell them about their salaries. Josie Meyer will be paid $700 a month, while Michelle Yeller will be paid $1,200 a month. David Sullivan was confused. Although Michelle Yeller works in the chairman's office, they are still secretaries all the same. Logically speaking, their salaries should be similar too. Why does Finn Taylor have to differentiate them? However, David Sullivan kept his questions to himself since it was the latter's company after all. He had the final say as to how much he wanted to pay his employees. As David Sullivan walked out of the office, Ken happened to be walking past with the two new hires. Mr. Sullivan. Oh, are you guys about done looking around the place? Michelle Yeller was polite. Yes, we're about done, Mr. Sullivan. All right, I'll tell you guys about your salaries. Josie Meyer, you'll be paid $700. Michelle Yeller, you'll be paid $1,200. Josie Meyer was clearly agitated after hearing that. We're both secretaries. Why is my salary so much lower than hers? Typically, David Sullivan wouldn't answer such questions. However, he faced Josie Meyer head on. We were only going to hire one new employee at $1,500 a month. This young lady is more suitable for the job than you, but we need manpower now. Therefore, we decided to keep you. The sum of both of your salaries already exceeds our original budget. David Sullivan made it clear that he had no intention of hiring her in the first place. Josie Meyer was rendered speechless, but she couldn't possibly resign from the job. Fine, $700 it is. Can I ask if there's a chance for me to be promoted and get a salary raise if I do well? David Sullivan nodded. Of course, everyone has an equal chance of being promoted as long as they perform well. That was all Josie Meyer needed to hear. She believed that she was perfect after all. Diane Taylor realized that Yvette Larson's mood had improved after returning and that naturally pleased the former. She ran up to the ladder and asked, Ms. Larson, did Mr. Taylor call? Yvette Larson shook her head. No, but I've thought it through. He got a divorce for my sake. The young girl could only smile helplessly. How is it possible that a divorce would be good for you? In the evening, Finn Taylor was making himself dinner when he heard a knock on his door. It's probably Michelle. Nobody knows about this place other than Hunter Sullivan and those two ladies next door. As expected, it was Michelle Yeller standing outside the door. Oh, you've made dinner. Yes, I was thinking of treating you to a meal. Treating me to a meal? Josie and I found a job. We're heading out to celebrate our new jobs, and I wanted to invite you along so that we can clear any misunderstandings you two may have. The man chuckled. If I go, she would probably say that I have something up my sleeves again. Come on, I've already made a reservation. Finn Taylor glanced back at the kitchen before eventually nodding. All right. When the trio headed out, Josie Meyer was still haughty as usual. However, Finn Taylor suddenly asked, Michelle, congratulations on your new job. Oh right, how much are you getting paid? The talk of salaries angered her best friend. What's with David Sullivan? Why is Michelle getting paid $1,200 while I'm only getting $700? When I questioned him about it, he even said that they only wanted to hire one person. If not for me, Michelle could have gotten a salary of $1,500. What does he even mean? He's making it sound like I put Michelle at a disadvantage. Just over 1,000. It's all right, I'll take it slow. Michelle Yeller smiled, not going into detail for fear that she'd put her friend in an awkward position. But Finn Taylor didn't let the matter go. Over 1,000, how much exactly? If you don't earn much, I'll pay for today's meal. I don't want to burden you. Finn Taylor's words sounded caring, but it annoyed Josie Meyer even more. She's getting $1,200, and I'm getting $700. Will that do? Josie Meyer turned around without sparing the man a glance after saying so. The elevator doors opened right at that moment, and the other two walked out of the elevator. Come on, let's go. Because Josie Meyer had turned around, she hadn't seen the doors open and was still standing foolishly in the elevator. Thankfully, her friend dragged her out. When they arrived at the restaurant, Michelle Yeller asked Finn Taylor to order a few dishes, and he didn't stand on ceremony. He then passed the menu over to the two girls. After Josie Meyer added on a few more dishes, she asked the man if he wanted any alcohol. Finn Taylor shook his head. She then asked if he abstained from alcohol, but he merely waved her off. I'm done ordering. You can order whatever you want. You don't have to bother about me. Michelle Yeller then added a couple more dishes. Not long later, their food was served. Perhaps it was because of what Finn Taylor had said in the elevator, but Josie Meyer was feeling annoyed and wanted to find her place again. As such, she started asking Finn Taylor about his job. Timothy, what do you work as? Oh, I don't have a job. You don't have a job. Hearing that, Josie Meyer felt as though she had won. Do you have a wife or children then? Nope. The young lady grew even more gleeful. Are you serious, Mr. Taylor? Michelle Yeller was taken aback. The man didn't hide anything and merely nodded. This answer stunned the young girl. He carries himself so differently, but he doesn't have a job, a wife, or any children. Oh, you don't look young anymore. Why don't you have anything? Josie Meyer was over the moon and tried to grill Finn Taylor to satisfy herself. That's right, Mr. Taylor. We're here to look for jobs, so why are you here then? Finn Taylor sighed. I just got a divorce from my wife and left with nothing. I didn't have anywhere to go, so I moved here. This excited Josie Meyer even more. He's a divorcee who has nothing. Ha ha ha, that's the lowest rank in society. Divorced. Mr. Taylor, you're such a good man. Why would you get divorced? Michelle Yeller couldn't understand it. Through my interactions with him over the past few days, he feels like a good man. Why would someone like this get divorced? What else? All men who get divorced and leave with nothing must have done something. I already told you that he isn't any good. I even told you to keep your distance from him, but you refused to believe me. Josie Meyer took the chance to insult Finn Taylor. Nonsense. Mr. Taylor isn't someone like that. I trust him. Trust him? What's the use of that? Come on, Timothy Taylor. Why don't you tell us why you got divorced? The man smiled bitterly. I ran into some trouble, and they want to break my family apart. I was afraid of dragging my wife down, so I put on an act with her best friend to let my wife catch us together. I then proposed divorce and chose to leave everything to her. The way Finn Taylor said it was as though it was nothing but a trivial matter. However, Michelle Yeller was scared stiff. What kind of trouble could he have gotten into that he'd choose to end their marriage like that? Mr. Taylor, was there really no way of solving that trouble? I'm sure your wife would be sad to get divorced. Finn Taylor smiled blandly. Well, the likelihood of succeeding is no different from seeing snow in June. Michelle Yeller was moved by Finn Taylor's love for his wife, but her friend was clearly not. Did you hear that? I think he really was in a relationship with his wife's best friend and got caught red-handed, so he had no choice but to get divorced. There's nothing I can do if the other person doesn't want to believe me. The man shook his head helplessly. Oh right, I haven't congratulated you guys on getting jobs at the Larson Corporation. I'll drink this and treat it as wine. Haha, they're all the same. Oh right, how is the company doing now? I've heard a lot of rumors about it. What are you guys working as? Michelle Yeller didn't hide anything. I'm the secretary to the previous chairman's. Yvette Larson and Josie is working in the public relations department as a secretary. Oh, you work in the chairman's office. That's not bad. Is the chairman nice? The young girl shook her head. I didn't see her, but I heard them say that we have 3 chairmen now. 2 are the current chairman Francis Larson and Linda James, but the one managing everything is their daughter, Yvette Larson. However, I didn't see any of them today. Finn Taylor felt his heart twist up into knots. Yvette didn't go to work today. Where did she go? This meal allowed Finn Taylor, Michelle Yeller, and Josie Meyer to get to know each other better. The former 2 thought that they suited each other as friends, while the meal only made the latter even more sure that Finn Taylor was a piece of trash. Not only is he useless, but he even cheated on his wife with her best friend and was forced to get divorced after getting caught. Even so, he made up a story to trick a young and innocent girl like Michelle. Josie Meyer's impression of Finn Taylor was only getting worse by the minute. Finn Taylor lay on his bed, looking at his phone. He was looking at his wedding photo with Yvette Larson. Their relationship hadn't come easy, and looking at the photo caused all sorts of emotions to rise up within him. At the same time, Yvette Larson was lying on her own bed in No. 1 Pacific Heights. In her hand was also a phone, and she was looking at the exact same wedding photo. Perhaps they knew each other too well. After what seemed like an eternity, the couple finally fell asleep. The next day, Finn Taylor headed to Gentle Breeze Bar. It had been a while since he had come here, so he decided to pay the bar a visit since he was free. The bar's main stage could be seen from the bar's VIP room. Many young men and women were gathered there to dance. Around the stage were tables for those who preferred to just consume their drinks. To Finn Taylor's surprise, he spotted 2 familiar faces when he peered down his neighbors. Michelle Yeller didn't take a fancy to a place like this, but her friend told her that they had to come to a place like this in order to socialize with rich second-generation heirs. This was to elevate their own social positions. Those rich heirs were their hope. If they managed to convince those heirs to work with the Larson Corporation, they would be promoted from their lowly positions as secretaries. Although Michelle Yeller was here with her friend, she had already told the latter that she would simply sit there. She wasn't going to try anything strange. Josie Meyer tapped on her friend's nose and smiled. What are you thinking about? Do you think I'd make you do those things? Just watch and see how I bring business in. It couldn't be denied that the two young girls were indeed beautiful and attractive. One of them was innocent and sweet-looking, while the other was seductive and passionate. Although they simply sat there drinking their wine, they attracted quite a lot of attention. Finally, someone could no longer hold himself back. It was the young master of one of the companies in San Francisco, and his name was Melvin Lowe. He walked up to Josie Meyer and asked, "Miss, can I treat you to a drink?" The latter sized the man up, and her gaze landed on the Rolex on his wrist. "It seems like he is indeed a rich man. How should I address you?" "Melvin Lowe. I only drink cocktails. Get me a sex on the beach." The man ordered a cocktail just as Josie Meyer had asked for. He preferred Josie to the other girl beside her because he felt that it would be easier to get her. The girl beside her looked too naive, and it seemed like money wouldn't win her over. Josie Meyer took a sip of the cocktail before Melvin Lowe invited her for a dance. In the VIP room, Finn Taylor couldn't help but sneer. "You know them," Andre Cavill couldn't help but ask. "She's my new neighbor. Do you need me to send someone to protect her?" Finn Taylor shook his head. "Josie Meyer had nothing to do with me. Why would I care if she gets bullied? The only one I think of as a friend is the young girl beside her." "Protect that girl. Is she your neighbor too?" "They're roommates." Andre Cavill could sort of guess the situation. "I think something's going to happen soon." Andre Cavill had no sooner said that than a commotion broke out downstairs. This was Andre Cavill's bar, and he couldn't be more familiar with the venue. He knew what each young master liked and what their gazes meant. Earlier on, he had seen several men with their eyes set on Josie Meyer. Melvin Lowe was simply the one who had made the first move. That was why he had asked Finn Taylor if the latter wanted him to protect the young girl. He had already expected chaos to ensue. "We're dancing. Why are you trying to snatch her away from me?" Melvin Lowe was dancing with Josie Meyer when a bald man suddenly grabbed the latter's hand, asking her to dance with him. Of course, Melvin Lowe wasn't going to take this lying down. "What are you trying to do?" "Snatching. You invited her to dance with you. Can't I do the same?" The bald man wasn't the slightest bit afraid of Melvin Lowe. One's status was nothing more than a joke in a place like this. The latter was so weak that he'd probably knock him out in one blow. "Invite her. She's mine. You can find someone else to dance with you." "Yours? You're making it sound as though you two are married. Do you have a certificate to prove that?" Melvin Lowe was incensed. The other man is obviously making a mountain out of a molehill. Doesn't he know the rules around this place? It's obvious why we're dancing together. "Marriage certificate? Would you bring your wife to a place like this?" "Hey, Baldy, you better shut up, or I'll kill you." "Hee, kill me, you're so weak. Let's see how you're going to kill me." With that, the bald man stomped forward and snatched the girl away, wanting to leave. With that, Josie Meyer was suddenly being dragged into the fiasco, and she flew into a frenzy. She glanced around for someone to save her, yet all she saw was Melvin Lowe's terrified gaze. Just then, she happened to see Timothy Taylor upstairs. Why is he here? Josie Meyer wanted to yell out for Finn Taylor to save her, yet she felt embarrassed. How can I ask for his help given our relationship? But just then, Michelle Yeller rushed forward. "Let go of my friend. She doesn't want to leave with you, let go." Not only did the man not let go, but he even let out a sinister smile. "Stop acting innocent and naive. Everyone knows why women like you are here. Tell me, how much money do you guys want before you'll leave with me?" Upstairs, Andre Cavill couldn't help but inwardly sigh as he watched the events pan out. That Baldy is really tempting fate. He would have been fine, but he just had to say that. There's no way he's leaving like this today. Just as he expected, Finn Taylor had already headed downstairs. Michelle Yeller had never been to a place like this, much less interact with people like this. Hence, she was at a total loss. What should I do? But just as Josie Meyer was worrying about what to do, someone placed a hand on her shoulder. The young girl was frantic and worried that she had run into a bad guy, but her heart gradually calmed down when she lifted her head and saw Finn Taylor. For some reason, he put her at ease. "Come on now, let's not create a scene. Let the young ladies go." Finn Taylor gave the man one last chance. After all, he was benevolent. "Who the fuck are you? Are they your wives? Wife? Are you insulting my wife? How interesting. In the past 3 years, I've never tolerated anyone who insulted my wife." "Are you done watching?" Finn Taylor said all of a sudden. Following that, Andre Cavill whistled. Suddenly, dozens of bodyguards surrounded the bald man. "Hey Andre Cavill, what are you trying to do?" Melvin Lowe had never seen such a sight and was starting to panic. "You offended someone you shouldn't have." Andre Cavill was direct, and the bodyguards rushed up as soon as he finished his words. As the bald man was dragged away by the bodyguards, the two young girls were left gawking, especially Josie Meyer. She didn't know how to feel. After all, Finn Taylor had indeed saved her this time. Yet, she didn't want to admit to it because it would mean bowing down to him. I'm a goddess. There is no way I'll lower my pride to thank someone like this. Mr. Taylor, thank you so much. If not for you, something might have happened to Josie and me. Michelle Yeller thanked the man sincerely, but her friend grabbed her. Why are you thanking him? Have you not gotten a clear picture of him by now? Look, this is where he spends his time. His friends are all so barbaric. You better not fall for him. You'll only be courting death if you do that. Josie Meyer's words stumped her friend, as well as Finn Taylor. I saved her, yet she still says such things. Just then, Finn Taylor received a message on his phone. Hello, Master Peregrine. I have the 4 guardians. Come to this address. His brows furrowed into a frown. Is this a joke or a prank? But that's unlikely. Few people even know about my identity as Master Peregrine. Could they really be in trouble? Finn Taylor tried making a call to Hunter Sullivan, but he couldn't reach the latter. He then tried calling the others but was met with the same result. He couldn't connect to a single one of them. It seems like something has really gone wrong. Finn Taylor turned to Andre Cavill. Send this lady home. If you dare to send that one home, I'll make sure to break your leg. With that, he turned to leave. Andre Cavill felt slightly awkward. They are neighbors, and Finn Taylor had even said that the two ladies are roommates. However, he makes it seem as though one of them is a friend while the other is an enemy. I'll send you home, miss. Andre Cavill invited Michelle Yeller out. About that, Mr. Taylor must be kidding. Could you bring Josie along? Andre Cavill helplessly pointed at his own leg. I think you had better spare my leg. Michelle Yeller pretended to get angry. Then, I'm not going either. That's not up to you, miss. Mr. Taylor has already given me instructions. My head will roll if I don't do it well. His head will roll. Both Josie Meyer and Michelle Yeller were shocked. Who is Finn Taylor? Why is he so impressive? But, before Michelle Yeller could finish her sentence, Andre Cavill's men had already dragged her into the car. Finn Taylor had asked him to send the young girl home safely. As for Josie Meyer, she was left fuming. That bast Timothy Taylor, is he a man? How could he just leave me in the lurch like this? However, Finn Taylor had no time to care about her at that moment because the 4 guardians had been kidnapped. He knew full well just how powerful all 4 of them were, so who could have possibly kidnapped them just like that? Following the address he had been given, Finn Taylor arrived at a lake, only to see Levi Taylor sitting there. Beside him was a tie. It looked like they were here to settle it with a duel. So you're the one who kidnapped Hunter Sullivan and the others. Levi Taylor yawned. You arrived earlier than I expected. I was even afraid that you wouldn't show up. It seems like Levi Taylor is indeed the one who kidnapped the 4 guardians. Why did you kidnap them? No reason really. I just want to get to know the so-called Master Peregrine. Ty, make him kneel. The man beside Levi Taylor walked forward and prepared himself. Hold on, let me see them. Levi Taylor casually clapped, and the 4 guardians were dragged out. They were all bound and gagged, unable to speak or move. These are your 4 guardians show weak. They wouldn't have even gotten a chance to train with me. Levi Taylor spoke arrogantly, trampling Finn Taylor under his feet. Levi Taylor, this is between us. Let them go. Hee hee. Timothy Taylor, don't test your luck. Do you think I'll just do as you say? Go on, Ty. The Thai man charged forward. Because he had been trained in Muay Thai since he was young, he was already used to numbing all senses so that he felt nothing. Arg! The man charged forward as though he was ready to give up his life. Finn Taylor simply dodged instead of returning any punches. Since Muay Thai fighters love to inflict the greatest amount of pain possible to their opponents, Finn Taylor was going to leverage that and use Ty's strategy against himself. Ty was still throwing punches, and Finn Taylor continued dodging them. The latter was trying to build up power. Given the amount of strength Ty was using, it wouldn't be enough to strike himself down. Ty was terribly impatient, and Finn Taylor dodging blow after blow made him annoyed. Finally, he could no longer hold himself back. He gathered all his energy and threw a last punch toward his opponent. He was sure that the latter would never be able to dodge this blow. In fact, Finn Taylor would probably die from this blow. Seeing Ty's move, Levi Taylor was emotional. He knew that the former was finally making his move and wasn't going to hold back any longer. Finn Taylor is going to meet his death now. However, what he saw was Finn Taylor no longer dodging but waiting for Ty's punch instead. Everyone was confused. Why is he suddenly not moving? However, that can't be bad news for us. As such, Ty charged forward viciously. Finn Taylor fought back and used his opponent's blow against himself. All of a sudden, Ty felt immense pressure on his body. It's my own energy. He frowned, feeling something amiss. However, it was too late to stop himself. Boom! Ty was blasted out. Seeing this, Levi Taylor was dumbfounded. Finn Taylor then turned his fist toward his relative. Since the latter has already attacked me, I have every reason to return it. But just then, a man appeared next to Levi Taylor Gremlin. Never in his life would Finn Taylor have expected Gremlin to be the one protecting Levi Taylor. Gremlin, you're going to protect Southeast Asia's Taylor family. Gremlin grew up in Chicago's Taylor family, and it's obvious that the other family is here to topple us this time. What does Gremlin mean by this? No matter what I do to Donovan, it's between us brothers. But now, he's trying to bring outsiders into our fight for Donovan's benefit. Gremlin, are you trying to sell yourself to Southeast Asia's Taylor family and then beg them to let Donovan Taylor handle the matters here so that you'll achieve your goal in the end? Finn Taylor was acute and understood the situation in no time at all. However, it was exactly because of this that he was in grave danger. There was no way Gremlin was going to allow Master Peregrine to leave this place alive. Otherwise, his reputation would be ruined. I don't understand what you're saying. Gremlin stepped toward Finn Taylor as though he was prepared for a fight. But unlike Ty, Gremlin had both brawn and brains. He wouldn't be defeated so easily. Finn Taylor steadied himself but knew that he didn't have much chance of winning. Seeing this, Levi Taylor was delighted. Is Chicago's Taylor family going to kill each other off? Great, it's best you guys turn each other into enemies and kill each other. But just as Gremlin was about to attack, he felt a blast of wind. However, he saw nothing. Then, he panicked. Run! Without thinking much, he dragged Levi Taylor and ran for his life. It wasn't just Finn Taylor who was stunned, even Levi Taylor was as well. What is going on? Finn Taylor glanced around, trying to figure out what had happened, but he didn't see anything. He quickly stepped forward to untie the ropes around the four guardians, who finally felt more comfortable after they were released. Hunter, did you see what just happened? Not really, but I think someone who's more powerful than Gremlin must have appeared nearby. That was what Finn Taylor thought as well, so he had looked around. Unfortunately, he hadn't seen anything. Are you out there? Could you show yourself? Finn Taylor tried his luck at seeking out the person who just saved him. However, silence returned once he finished his sentence. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. I guess they don't want to be seen, and I shouldn't force them either. They probably don't have any ill intentions since they're willing to help me scare Gremlin away. San Francisco, the rooftop of an unknown skyscraper. Two people were overlooking the city. Did you do something? I just went to take a look. Finn Taylor knew both of the people who were standing near his mother and his master, Wendy Jensen and Maximus Bruegel. It was the latter who had scared Gremlin away. Maximus Bruegel was the strategist of Chicago's Taylor family, and rumor had it that he didn't just have exceptional intellect but exceptional martial arts skills as well. However, he rarely used them. As such, hardly anyone knew about just how powerful he truly was. But everyone knew one thing: anyone who had personally witnessed Maximus Bruegel's prowess lived in fear. You shouldn't have. Maximus Bruegel had saved her son, yet she was saying that he shouldn't have interfered. Who knew what she was thinking? You're no different from Frida Cameron. Both of you are so ruthless and are willing to do anything to achieve your goals. Wendy Jensen frowned. She hated being compared to her mother-in-law, whom she felt was the cause of this entire situation. I'm nowhere as bad as Frida Cameron. They're both your children. If you don't know how to control yourself, you never should have given birth to him. Finally, Wendy Jensen could no longer hold it in and retorted, do you really think so badly of me? The other chuckled. Well, you're not evil, but I don't agree with your actions. You want to take control of Chicago's Taylor family, so why don't you face Southeast Asia's Taylor family yourself? Why did you have to make him do it? I was wondering why you wanted him to know that Brian Taylor could still be alive, but it seems like you had everything planned. Wendy Jensen lamented. Of course not. I didn't know anything about that. Gremlin was the one who planned everything. Maximus Bruegel merely smiled. I have my eyes on him. I'm warning you not to hurt him. With that, he left. Wendy Jensen was left alone on the rooftop. No, I'm his mother. Everything I've done is for the Taylor family's sake. Since he's Master Peregrine, it's his responsibility to handle this. What has it got to do with me? Wendy Jensen thought for a long time before finding an excuse for herself. She naturally wouldn't admit to treating her son in this manner to satisfy her own selfish desires. She had to find an excuse. Everything she had done was for the Taylor family's sake. Finn Taylor was a Taylor, while she was a Jensen. That made her feel much better about herself, as though she was working for the family's sake. She sighed before heading down. However, she had no sooner walked out of the elevator than several people surrounded her. A young lady then walked out. "Don't worry, we won't hurt you. Our mistress would like to meet you." Wendy Jensen observed the men without moving before eventually chuckling. "Melanie Taylor." The young lady didn't answer Wendy Jensen and simply made a gesture. Since she wasn't going to reply, the latter wasn't going to force her either. Wendy Jensen was brought to a room in the hotel, where she saw two young people, a man and a woman. "If I'm not wrong, this must be Melanie Taylor and Levi Taylor." The pair stood up as she walked in. "Should I address you as Auntie? But since we're such distant relatives, I won't force myself. I'll just call you by your name, Wendy Jensen." Wendy Jensen frowned. "Are you Melanie Taylor and Levi Taylor?" The young lady nodded. "Not bad. It seems like we've heard about each other. That will make things easier. I won't beat around the bush. Persuade your son to give up the title of Master Peregrine. If he does, I assure you that I won't do anything to your family." Wendy Jensen wasn't a fool. In fact, she was a talent. It was obvious just how impressive she was by how she had managed to consolidate her power in the family so quickly after Frida Cameron's death. However, Melanie Taylor treated her as a fool, wanting to convince her with these words. "We're relatives, and I obviously don't want us to get into a tussle either. If possible, I'll try to persuade my son to get on good terms with your family. But since you've done your investigations, I'm sure you know that I don't have a very good relationship with my son. He's basically been abandoned by the family, and I can't exert any authority over him." Wendy Jensen simply shirked all responsibility. "Don't try to play tricks with me. You're his mother. Can't you make him do what you want? If I could, we'd be meeting in Chicago, not San Francisco." Melanie Taylor agreed. Since Finn Taylor refused to return to Chicago, it could only mean that he still held a grudge against the family. "Why did you hand the position of Master Peregrine over to him since you guys don't get along?" Wendy Jensen shrugged. "What else would I do? My husband is dead, and my younger son is locked up. Someone from the family has to take over. Who else would fit those criteria?" She wasn't lying. That was what she had thought at first, yet fate played tricks on people. She had only planned on finding a puppet she could control, but who would have thought that this puppet would grow to be so powerful? "I don't believe that you guys would hate each other so much. Let's see what he picks between the position of Master Peregrine and his own mother." Melanie Taylor then instructed her men to tie Wendy Jensen up before she took a photo and sent it over to the latter's son. She was giving him 3 days to think it through. In 3 days' time, he had better give up the position of Master Peregrine or wait to collect his mother's dead body. That day, Finn Taylor busied himself with household chores as usual. Then, he received a notification that a parcel had arrived. "That's strange. I don't think I bought anything, but it's true that I have bought quite a few things since moving here. Maybe it's a free gift from one of those stores." He didn't take the matter to heart and headed out to collect his parcel after arranging his things. When he arrived at the security post, he spotted Josie Meyer there too. She was there to collect her parcel as well. The world was small when one had enemies. Josie Meyer didn't hesitate to lash out. "How unlucky, I'm bumping into a tortoise as soon as I get out of the house." She was naturally referring to none other than Finn Taylor. Her words were truly vicious, and the latter could no longer hold himself back. "I'm your savior. Don't you feel bad for saying that about me?" Josie Meyer knew that he was going to mention the event. "You just did what a man should. I didn't think you would be so calculative and always talk about it." Finn Taylor shrugged indifferently. "It's impossible to convince an unreasonable person. Although it was a trivial matter, and I don't have to use it against the other all the time, I did save her after all. Even if you don't thank me, the least you could do is not denigrate me. But listen to what you're saying. It's like I owe you something. So you hate me for asking Andre Cavill not to send you back?" Who cares about that? Although she said so, that was exactly what bothered her. Both the roommates had just gotten to know Finn Taylor. In fact, she was better looking than her roommate. So why did Finn Taylor share such a good relationship with her roommate while treating her like an enemy? She had been injured that night and needed someone to send her back. However, Finn Taylor had instructed his friend to send only Michelle Yeller back and not her. Yes, he had made a special request as though it would be great trouble. Yet, Josie Meyer had never considered how she had treated the man that day. Every word was an attack against Finn Taylor. Since that was the case, it was perfectly fine for the latter to do the same. Do you really think you're so pretty that the world revolves around you? Do you mean that everyone who doesn't do as you wish is a bad person? Why, everyone leads difficult lives. TCH, what did you buy? Why is the box so small? Sigh, Josie Meyer is starting to kick up a huge fuss over nothing again. How can she tell how good my things are just by the size of the box? Finn Taylor didn't want to say much to the lady in front. She was filled with too many prejudices against him, so there was no way of communicating with her even after she calmed down. When Finn Taylor returned home, he opened the box to see its contents. But when he caught sight of the content, all sorts of emotions surged up in his heart. It was a photo of Wendy Jensen being kidnapped. That mother of his who had always been biased toward his younger brother had been kidnapped. Finn Taylor wasn't sad, nor was he worried. He didn't even know how he was feeling. Ding dong. Right then, the doorbell rang. He put away the box and opened the door to find Michelle Yeller standing outside. Thank you for your help last time, Mr. Taylor. This is for you. Michelle Yeller handed a mug to him. It was blue and looked like a couple's mug. If I'm not wrong, she probably has a pink one at home. Sigh. Finn Taylor sighed inwardly. It's obvious that she likes me. Unfortunately, I can't give her anything. There's only one person in my heart, and I'll never forget about her. That. Finn Taylor didn't want to accept it, but the young girl let out a pitiful expression. What, do you not like it because it's too cheap? Now that she had already said so, Finn Taylor couldn't refuse her and could only accept the gift. Mr. Taylor, Josie bumped into you again earlier. She. Forget it, I don't hold grudges with women. Haha, you're so magnanimous, Mr. Taylor. Magnanimous? I've never thought of myself as magnanimous. It's just that I can't be bothered with such trivial matters. If I did, so many people would have died in the past 3 years. I made some barbecued ribs tonight. I'd like you to have some, said the young girl shyly. Finn Taylor knew that he couldn't give the other any more hope. I'm busy tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Go ahead and do whatever you need to do then. Finn Taylor wasn't lying. Although he didn't like Wendy Jensen, she was still his mother after all. He had to save her. I won't disturb you then, Mr. Taylor. I'll leave, Michelle Yeller said before leaving. Finn Taylor sighed and packed up the place before heading out too. What he didn't know was that Michelle Yeller was leaning against the door, observing him through the peephole. When she returned home earlier, her roommate had seen how dejected she was. Therefore, she told the latter about everything that had happened. Josie Meyer couldn't help but chide the other again. Michelle, have you really gone mad? Why do you like that man? Don't you see that he's a cheater? Do you really think he was telling you the truth? I'm sure he was just lying to you. But Michelle Yeller didn't believe her friend. Finn Taylor is probably busy. She peered through the peephole and saw Finn Taylor leaving the house. He's leaving the house. He didn't lie to me. Michelle Yeller was obviously excited as she pointed outside. He's going out. See, I told you that Mr. Taylor wouldn't lie to me. He's really leaving the house. TCH. No matter how Josie Meyer looked at Finn Taylor, the latter seemed like a bad guy to her. Hence, nothing her friend said mattered. After Finn Taylor left his apartment, he headed for Andre Cavill's bar. The latter had already cleared the place in advance, and the 4 Guardians had already arrived as well. Finn Taylor had initially wanted to meet the 4 Guardians at Hunter Sullivan's residence, but the latter lived at Pacific Heights. It was better to stay away from the area for the time being, so the group ended up meeting at Andre Cavill's bar. Finn Taylor took the photo out as they gathered around to analyze it. Wendy Jensen has been kidnapped. Hunter Sullivan could hardly believe his eyes. That's right, they've only given me this photo without any other requests. What do you think I should do? Finn Taylor threw the venue into silence. Everyone knew that the mother-son duo didn't get along. However, Wendy Jensen was indeed Finn Taylor's mother. That was an undeniable fact. As such, neither decision seemed right. The only solution was to listen to Finn Taylor and do whatever he wanted them to do. Master Peregrine had naturally already expected the silence, and he wouldn't put them in a difficult spot. Why don't we talk about how to save her? Hearing this, the group had an idea of their boss's choice. Horned Serpent was the first to speak up. If we want to come up with a plan, we first have to be sure about who kidnapped her. Horned Serpent was right. Hunter Sullivan spoke up too. Actually, there are only those few families that can do it. Given Quince Larson's abilities, there's no way he'd be able to kidnap Wendy Jensen. Gremlin is powerful enough, but I doubt he'd dare to do it. After all, he grew up in the Taylor family. He wouldn't dare to do anything to the matriarch of the family. That leaves us with only one person, Melanie Taylor. Logan Yates shook his head in disagreement. There's one more, Willow Stone. Willow Stone. Everyone turned to Logan Yates. Why would he suddenly bring Willow Stone up? I've gotten some leads on her. Her family in Europe is powerful and has vast connections. She's probably capable of doing this. Besides, I think she is plotting something against Master Peregrine. It's possible that she's using this to threaten him. Finn Taylor couldn't deny that they made sense. Eventually, they narrowed their suspects down to two women, Melanie Taylor and Willow Stone. Go investigate Melanie Taylor. I'll go look for Willow Stone. With that, he left. He arrived at Rocky Hills Hotel, where Willow Stone was staying. She had previously been staying in the same hotel as the Taylor siblings but didn't want to be recognized, so she moved out. Finn Taylor knocked on the room door. He heard a voice coming from inside. Who's that? Me. He said only one word, but it was enough to make the woman's jaw drop. Willow Stone was in a daze, wondering if she was dreaming. It seemed as though she had heard something she shouldn't have. Is he here? She pushed the door open, and just as expected, it was Finn Taylor. Why are you here? Finn Taylor walked into her room. Willow Stone was clearly shaken and swallowed her saliva before shutting the door. The next second, she was pinned to the wall by the man. Willow Stone could hardly breathe with the man strangling her neck. She felt as though she was about to die. Why is he doing this to me? I don't think I did anything to offend him. Finally, Finn Taylor let go of her. Willow Stone gasped, and her face was flushed. Only after several minutes did she finally catch her breath. Are you crazy, Finn Taylor? The man glared at her before asking, did you kidnap someone? Kidnap someone? Did Yvette get kidnapped? Seeing Finn Taylor so worked up, her first thought was that her best friend had been kidnapped and that he thought that she was the culprit. But she wasn't. Look in my eyes and tell me if you've kidnapped anyone. Willow Stone was confused. Is it not Yvette Larson? Who else would get Finn Taylor so worked up? It's not me. I didn't kidnap anyone. From her gaze, Finn Taylor was certain that she wasn't the culprit. I guess it really isn't you. Phew. The woman let out a great sigh of relief. You nearly killed me earlier. Hurry up and tell me who you care so much about. Wendy Jensen. Who's Wendy Jensen? Very obviously, Willow Stone didn't recognize the name. Go search it up yourself. With that, Finn Taylor turned to leave. Willow Stone was still in a daze. Wendy Jensen must be a woman. I never thought that there would be another woman that Finn Taylor cared so much about apart from Yvette. Once the man left, she quickly made a call to her subordinates, instructing them to find out who Wendy Jensen was. This would definitely keep her up if she didn't get an answer today. Very quickly, she got her answer. When Willow Stone heard that the woman was Finn Taylor's mother, a bitter smile spread across her face. I was jealous of my mother-in-law. I thought there were new beauties around Finn. But reality struck her. Wendy Jensen had been kidnapped. Who could have done so? Unlike Finn Taylor, Willow Stone had only one person in mind, Melanie Taylor. Wendy Jensen was kidnapped at such a critical moment. Melanie Taylor has to be involved in this. The next day, Yvette Larson heard her mother yelling at the top of her lungs the moment she woke up. What? Linda James rushed up to her daughter's side. Take a look at the company's financial report. The company is going under. Yvette Larson took the report from her mother and glanced at it. Yes, I guess the company is going to lose all its assets by next week at this rate. Next week? Do you mean that we're going bankrupt next week? Linda James couldn't believe it. I'm the chairman of the Larson Corporation. It feels good to be on top of everyone else, yet I'm going to lose everything very soon. Yvette Larson had already expected this result. After all, she had come up with this plan with her husband to let the company go bankrupt before selling it to Quince Larson. But no amount of planning would have prepared them for what was to come. Who would have expected them to get divorced? That was why they were faced with such an awkward scenario. If they were to continue with their original plan to let the company go bankrupt, she had no idea what to do since her husband had never told her anything. But if they were to rebuild the company now, they would have wasted all that money. Things were getting awkward now. Just as Yvette Larson was contemplating what to do, Linda James slammed a bank card onto the desk. Francis Larsonho had been sitting by the side, rushed forward as he stared at his wife. Are you sure you want to tell her about it now? What? Didn't you want to tell her about it? Are you reluctant to do it now? Francis Larson had indeed intended on telling his daughter about it, but that was because he was afraid that his wife would waste the money away. But after some observation, he realized that the latter had no intention of doing so. Besides, he thought of Finn Taylor as his son-in-law. It would be good if the couple could get back together, and this could remain a secret forever. However, Linda James insisted on telling their daughter about the matter now. What would happen to Yvette then? What's that? But it was too late to do anything since Linda James had already taken the card out. There was nothing he could do. This is compensation from Finn Taylor. There are $5 billion in it. Is it enough to save the company? $5 billion. Linda James had been dumbfounded when she first heard the number, and so had her husband. Now, Yvette Larson was equally taken aback. That was an incredible sum of money. It was beyond one's imagination. $5 billion, that was a few times more than what the Larson Corporation was worth. She would probably have enough to save a dozen Larson corporations, but she wasn't going to use the money to do that. She picked up the bank card and turned to her mother. I'll take control of the company from now on. No matter what happens, don't interfere. Linda James got a little frenzied. What's going on? I'm asking if you can use the money to save the company. Yvette, I'm the chairman of the company, not you. Oh, you're the chairman. All right then, you can go manage the company. Didn't Finn give me this sum of money? What does it have to do with you? Linda James had no way of rebutting her daughter, but she was never one to reason things out logically. Since she couldn't convince her daughter, she tried to snatch the bank card away. However, Yvette Larson wasn't going to let her mother have her way since she had already made a decision. She took a few steps back. Mom, you better not make a fuss. If the company goes under, you'll have to rely on the money in this account to live. Otherwise, you can move back to our old house. After all, your name isn't on this property deed. Yvette Larson's words stunned her mother. The latter was already used to leading a luxurious lifestyle, so there was no way she'd be willing to go back to her previous lifestyle. Eventually, she relented. Fine, I'll give up my rights to care about the company, but you have to give me a monthly allowance of $150,000. Yvette Larson acted as though she couldn't hear her mother. What did you say? Repeat that. $150,000. That number shocked her husband and daughter. $150,000 a month. She must be mad. What? You have $5 billion. Is $150,000 too much to ask for? I'm already so old. How many more years do you think I have to enjoy this? Linda James finally found a reason. However, her daughter wasn't going to indulge her mother in her fantasies. $1,500, just $1,500. Linda James was annoyed. Just $1,500. What can I do with that? Do you want it or not? Can I have a little more? $1,500 isn't enough. You don't want it. All right, you won't get a single cent then. No, $1,500 it is. Linda James eventually chose to compromise. Given her daughter's character, she probably wouldn't even get that $1,500 if she refused. Sigh, Finn Taylor is really something. Look at what's become of the company. It's on the verge of bankruptcy. Wasn't it doing just fine with you managing it? Why did he have to rearrange the shareholdings? Yvette Larson crossed her arms and stared at her mom. If I'm not wrong, you were over the moon when he first gave you those shares. But I didn't expect this to happen to the company. So you're not even taking responsibility as a chairman now that the company is going down, but you're even trying to find somebody to blame. Besides, you should reflect on yourself. As a chairman, how many days have you even spent in the company? In fact, Linda James had never even been to the office, much less spent any time there. Because she had gotten that sum of money, she had spent her days having fun. All right, sit down and don't say anything. I want to talk to Dad. Yvette Larson sat her father down and asked seriously, Dad, will you agree to me selling the company? The question shocked both her parents. Seeing that her mother was about to speak, Yvette Larson shot a glance over, scaring the former so much that she swallowed her words. What do you think, Dad? Who do you want to sell that company to? Francis Larson wasn't as brainless as his wife. He knew that his daughter had her own reasons. Quince Larson. What? Linda James couldn't hold herself back. You want to sell the company to Quince Larson? What are you thinking, Yvette? Did you come to this decision after thinking it through? Francis Larson only asked one question. Yvette Larson merely nodded. All right, if you've thought this decision through, I'll support you. Francis Larson had no idea why his daughter wanted to sell the company to her cousin, but he chose to trust her. As for Yvette Larson, she had made this decision only because of Finn Taylor. She believed in him and trusted that he would return. Since he had made that decision, she would simply go through with it. No, what do you mean that you guys can make the decision? Aren't my shares worth anything? Francis Larson turned to his wife. I have 51% of the shares, so I call the final shots. Your shares don't mean a thing. Linda James had never had her husband speak to her in this manner throughout her entire life, and his tone made her fly into a rage. What the hell are you saying? I'm going to kill you. But her husband turned away, ignoring her. That day, Yvette Larson approached her cousin. At a coffee shop, Yvette Larson, Quince Larson, and Eleanor Larson were seated at a table. Eleanor Larson glanced out of the window and smiled. I never thought that the three of us would still have the chance to sit around the same table for coffee together. Yvette Larson replied, nobody will stay enemies forever. Only benefits matter in the long term. You want to buy the company, and I want to sell it. It only makes sense for us to sit and have a chat with each other. There's no need to go against each other like we did in the past. Are you afraid I'll bring up your divorce? Quince Larson shushed her. Eleanor, don't bring that up. Eleanor, everyone has a dark past. Do you want me to talk about your history before we discuss business? Compared to her cousin, Eleanor Larson had a much darker history. As such, that threat was enough to shut her up. Yvette Larson, didn't you refuse my offer last time? What, have you come to your senses and decided to sell the company? Yvette Larson smiled. Why would you bother asking since you know the answer? I'm sure you know that the company is going to go bankrupt in my hands by next week. Since that's the case, I might as well sell it and get some money for it. That's true. I already said that you don't have the brains for business, and I was right. The company is going to go bankrupt in your hands. Name a price. Yvette Larson nearly rolled her eyes. Quince Larson makes it sound nice, but doesn't he know how he managed the company in the past too? Besides, does he really think that it was due to incompetence that the company is going under? It was clearly a show, yet Yvette Larson didn't expose him. $1 billion, she offered. Eleanor Larson spat her tea out. $1 billion, Yvette Larson, you're really daring. What are you going to do with so much money? What, can't I have $1 billion? Yvette Larson, shouldn't you look at the state the company is in now? I have to admit that the company might have been worth $1 billion at its peak, but now? Forget it. What's your price then? $10 million. I guess we don't have a deal then. $10 million is way too little. I'll get much more if I sell the company to someone else. We can always discuss the price. Why don't we both make a compromise? What do you think about $20 million? When she heard that, Yvette Larson stood up. Since that's the case, I guess there's no need for us to be here any longer. Hold on, why are you in such a hurry? We can always discuss the price. How about $100 million? Quince Larson, I'll give my final offer. If you don't agree, I'll leave. $500 million, that's the lowest I'll go. This time, Quince Larson didn't reject the offer right away. He glanced at Eleanor Larson without saying a word. I know the company isn't worth that much, but it isn't far from that. However, I can always find another buyer if you don't want to match the price. But I'm sure you don't want the Larson Corporation to go to someone else, right? Those words struck a chord with her cousin. What he cared most about was his status in the family. He didn't want his family's company to fall into someone else's hands. If that happened, he was sure that the family would criticize Yvette Larson for her incompetence, but he'd also be criticized for not buying the company. Eventually, Quince Larson forked out $500 million to acquire the Larson Corporation. The news shook the entire city. After all, the Larson Corporation was no longer just a small company. It was one of the top 5 companies in the whole city. Moreover, the one who had acquired the company wasn't just a nobody. Quince Larson had once been an insignificant character, but he had suddenly become a wealthy man overnight. Although nobody knew the origins of his money, it didn't matter. Money was king. Now, even those who used to look down on him were flocking to curry his favor. Of course, the acquisition only meant that even more people were trying to get into his good books. On the day of the acquisition, these people specially went down to the company with their gifts to congratulate him. That naturally pleased Quince Larson, who cared most about appearances. In the past, many in the family had said that he was useless and that he never would have been given a chance to inherit the family if not for the fact that he was the only male in his generation. If they went by their abilities, Yvette Larson was clearly more capable than him and would be in line to become the company's chairman. But now, the company had still landed up in his hands. Didn't that just go to show that he was more powerful than his cousin? Finn Taylor, Andre Cavill, and the 4 Guardians were gathered in one of the rooms at Andre Cavill's bar. They were watching television while drinking. It was a live stream of the reopening of the Larson Corporation. To be honest, I have to take my hats off to Yvette. You've been planning this for such a long time, but you went missing. I thought that our plans would be ruined, but I never thought that Yvette would be so determined and go through with the plan. Yes, I really respect her too. Without your support and your approval, I don't think I'd dare to bankrupt my company. Every owner had feelings for their businesses. Even if they were to earn money from a sale after running their company to the ground, they'd definitely feel uncomfortable. That was why everyone admired Yvette Larson. If they were put in that position, they never would have been able to do the same. Watch on. There's more to come. To be honest, even Finn Taylor was surprised by his wife. However, he understood that she had truly matured after his departure. She could consider the company's future and make plans for it. Actually, Finn Taylor had been worried that his wife wouldn't want to sell the company because of his absence. If she did so, all that money they had lost would go to waste. Of course, Finn Taylor had already made plans for that situation. However, they seemed unnecessary now. Mr. Larson, congratulations on acquiring another company. Mr. Larson, I heard that this is your family business. It looks like you're going to be the family head now. People came up to flatter Quince Larson, putting him in a good mood. Just then, something major happened. One by one, the employees walked out with boxes in their hands. They smiled as they walked past Quince Larson. Quince Larson, I'm quitting. Quince Larson, I'm quitting too. Quince Larson, you can take over the company's reins. 1, 2, 3 The number only grew. Eventually, even the security officer and janitor left. That was when they realized that something was amiss. It seemed as though the entire company had resigned. So what had Quince Larson purchased? A company with no employees. What was a company with no employees? This would spell trouble for their projects. The company had recently been suppressed by Melanie Taylor, and Quince Larson had naturally been heavily involved in that. Now, the company had no projects, no partners, and no employees. Quince Larson had spent $500 million on a paper company. Everyone could feel a chilly aura from Quince Larson. He was fuming. Not wanting to get involved, the people around him retreated cautiously. This enraged the man even more. They must be ignoring me now because they think I've made a bad investment. They must think that I'm stupid. That only fueled his anger, and the angrier he got, the further people distanced themselves from him. It was a vicious cycle that was eventually broken when Quince Larson started smashing everything in the office. Seeing that, the visitors quickly left, frightened that they would be beaten up as well if they stayed any longer. Finn Taylor couldn't help but chuckle when he saw the stick in the man's hand. He believed that Yvette Larson had left it behind on purpose because she had already guessed what her cousin would do. Quince Larson couldn't feel more embarrassed. He had acquired a company, but it was completely empty. Worse still, that wasn't all. On the very same day, a new company was established in San Francisco. It was named Mortal Corporation, and all of the Larson Corporation's resigned employees had chosen to join that company. More interestingly, this company's chairman was the Larson Corporation's ex-chairman Yvette Larson. This meant that Yvette Larson and her employees were simply working under another name, while Quince Larson had lost $500 million. That wasn't a small sum, and he had pretty much finished spending all of the money he received from Gremlin. The men couldn't help but smile as they watched the livestream. My respect for Yvette has really gone through the roof. Only today, I started admiring her a long time ago. Fuck, stop trying to flatter her. Everyone was in high spirits when Finn Taylor suddenly received a message: give up your position as Master Peregrine or get ready to receive your mother's corpse. Finn Taylor shot up at once, and the room suddenly fell silent. Hunter Sullivan asked, "What's wrong, Finn?" Melanie Taylor sent a message over. "We were right, she's the one who kidnapped Wendy Jensen. She wants me to step down from my position as Master Peregrine, otherwise, she'll kill my mother." The men were enraged. No matter what, they still had a relationship with Wendy Jensen. Now that Finn Taylor had already made it clear that they were to save her, they had to do so. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to the hotel to take a look," Finn Taylor said as he headed out. Not daring to delay any longer, the rest rushed out after him. They were all well trained, but Melanie Taylor's men were much stronger. They had learned that lesson the hard way. Still, they weren't planning on giving up. They were prepared to fight it out with the Taylor siblings. Finn Taylor and his men headed straight for Melanie Taylor's room upon arriving at the hotel. Completely ignoring the staff, they kicked the door open but were greeted by an empty room. Everything including their luggage was gone. This meant that the whole entourage had left the hotel. The hotel's security team had already gotten news that a room door had been forcefully kicked open, and very soon, dozens of security officers surrounded the group. At the head of the security team was the manager of the hotel. "Leonard, I don't think there's a need to bring so many to take me down, right? The four guardians had already prepared themselves for a fight, but they quickly calmed down when they recognized the manager. Hunter Sullivan, you're the one who kicked the door open. Do you have too much time on your hands? Why are you making trouble here? Hunter Sullivan pointed at the room. I have a grudge against the person who stayed here, so I came to look for them. Tell me how much the door costs, we'll pay for it. Don't joke around with me, Mr. Sullivan. How much could a door be worth? I'm sure you had your reasons for doing this. Forget it. No, I don't like owing others anything. How much is it? Hunter Sullivan wouldn't let the matter go. It wasn't a huge matter, but it wasn't a trivial one either. He would be at a disadvantage if the other asked him for a favor because of this in the future. Logan Yates was a businessman and naturally understood his friend. Thus, he didn't try to stop him. Just give me $150. Here's $750 to cover the installation fee and the money you'll lose during this period. Hunter Sullivan took out the money and placed it on a fire extinguisher. The manager couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. Hunter Sullivan is so acute. He would rather take a loss now than face a greater loss in the future. Leonard, we're friends. Do you know where these people went? The manager smiled. Mr. Sullivan, you must be joking. How would I know where these guests went? All right then, I won't disturb you. Hunter Sullivan then nodded slightly at his boss, who didn't say anything as he left with everyone. The group headed for Andre Cavill's bar. What do you guys think? Finn Taylor asked the rest once they sat down. That manager definitely knows something. Hunter Sullivan got straight to the point. He had been in the industry for a long time and had experienced loads, so he could tell whether someone was lying at first glance. Due to this, he was absolutely certain that the manager knew where the Taylor siblings had gone. Think of a way to make that manager spill the truth. Hunter Sullivan glanced at Andre Cavill. Just kidnap them. The latter frowned. Don't joke around. Who's joking? I know Leonard, he's a coward. As long as you kidnap him and bring him here, I'll have a way of making him tell the truth. Andre Cavill glanced at his boss, hoping that the latter would save him from the situation. Unexpectedly, his boss pointed at Hunter Sullivan and said, all right then. Both of you should go. It'll be safer that way. Me, Hunter Sullivan was stunned. I only asked Andre Cavill to go because I don't want to, but I still have to do it. Can I not go? Hunter Sullivan asked. It's too late, Hunter. You didn't seem so worried earlier on when you asked me to go. Come on, let's go. It seemed like Andre Cavill's mood had improved because his friend had to suffer alongside him. He dragged the latter out. Very quickly, they arrived at the hotel, waiting for the manager to get off work at 10. Because it was still some time away, the two men sat in front of a flower bed at the hotel entrance to smoke. Afraid that they were thieves, the security officers made several rounds around them. But after realizing that they were merely smoking, they left the pair alone. Finally, the manager emerged a few hours later. Seeing the man, the two friends rushed up as though they were welcoming a family member. The security officer had already been suspicious of Hunter Sullivan and Andre Cavill earlier, and now that the pair was rushing up to their general, he knew that something was wrong. As such, several security officers shielded the manager behind them. However, the latter saw Hunter Sullivan and Andre Cavill. It's fine, I know them. The security officers nearly took the two men down, but thankfully, the manager stepped in. Wow, you're such a big shot here, Leonard. Will you accept my offer for a meal together? The manager chuckled. Listen to what you're saying, Hunter. I might not go if someone else asked, but can I reject your offer? With that, he got into the car with Hunter Sullivan and Andre Cavill. Andre Cavill hadn't expected it to go so smoothly. I thought that we would get into a fight, but Leonard got into the car voluntarily. However, Hunter Sullivan had already expected this. It wasn't his first time interacting with the other, so he had already known that the manager was a coward who loved money. The manager would do whatever it took for his self-interests. The two men hadn't made it obvious that they were only here to get the truth out of the manager. It was natural for the latter to keep mum about it earlier on. After all, his subordinates had been present, and he would definitely be caught if he were to give anything away. But things were completely different now that he had left with the two men. Hunter Sullivan understood him well, and the converse was true too. The former was terribly righteous and loyal and would definitely return any favor he received. Very quickly, the trio returned to Andre Cavill's bar and walked into the room with the others. Leonard wasn't the slightest bit surprised. We meet again, Mr. Leonard. Finn Taylor stood up and smiled at the manager. Because they didn't know each other, the latter turned to Hunter Sullivan, who didn't hide anything. Leonard, have you heard of Peregrine Hall? Of course, who doesn't know about Peregrine Hall? Well, the man standing in front of you is Master Peregrine. Master Peregrine. Leonard's jaw dropped. He had never expected to meet the legendary Master Peregrine. Master Peregrine. The manager's voice trembled as he spoke. Don't listen to them, they're just scaring you. Just call me Finn Taylor. Master Peregrine Taylor. Just call him Finn Taylor. If you keep calling him Master Peregrine, he will feel too bad to talk to you. Seeing how stubborn the manager was, Hunter Sullivan taught him. Finn Taylor. Finally, Leonard managed to squeak out the other's name. Even so, it was obvious just how anxious he was. Come on, let's have a seat. Finn Taylor eyed Andre Cavill, who immediately understood what he meant. Very quickly, the latter returned with a whole tray of alcohol. It wasn't just any kind of alcohol. They were all worth at least thousands, yet they were being brought out as though they cost nothing. Finn Taylor poured the manager a glass before saying, Leonard, I'll get straight to the point. The people staying in that room today kidnapped my mother, and the entire Peregrine Hall is now looking for them. Tell me if you have any leads, and Peregrine Hall will be grateful to you. It was true that the Taylor siblings were powerful and rich too, but their influence wasn't within the country. Finn Taylor believed that Peregrine Hall still held influence here. Just as expected, Leonard was visibly shocked when he heard that the siblings had kidnapped the mother of Master Peregrine. Do you have any leads, Leonard? Oh, of course. This time, the manager didn't hold anything back. Actually, those two guests never checked out of our hotel. They're just staying in another hotel in New York. He then told Finn Taylor the exact hotel and room number of the siblings and even the room numbers of their subordinates. In fact, Leonard was the one who helped handle the paperwork for them. Oh right, they requested another room when we were changing hotels. If they kidnapped your mother, she might very well be held captive in that room. He then told the other another room number. Finn Taylor was extremely grateful to the manager for the information, and he nodded at Hunter Sullivan, who immediately brought Leonard to another room. Hunter Sullivan then transferred $15 million to the manager before sending him back personally. Of course, Finn Taylor didn't care about that. He was Master Peregrine, he didn't need to manage every trivial matter personally. Go back and have a good rest tonight. We're going to New York tomorrow. That night, the group spent the night in the bar. The next morning, Finn Taylor was still asleep when Hunter Sullivan walked over with food in his hands. Finn Taylor woke up blearily and glanced at the clock. It was already 6:30. Here's some food for you. We'll leave soon. We've already prepared everything, and I called our men here too. Finn Taylor took the food without saying much. Halfway through his meal, he said, ask your men to stay here. We'll be exposed too easily if we have too many people around. It'll just be the 6 of us. Hunter Sullivan was stunned. Master Peregrine, last time. He didn't want to bring so many subordinates either, but it was also true that Levi Taylor's men had defeated them the previous time. Although he hated to admit to it, it was the truth. That was why he wanted to bring all his men along. I know what I'm doing. Because of his boss's words, Hunter Sullivan didn't try to argue with the other and simply headed out to tell the rest to stay in San Francisco. I better take instructions from Finn Taylor. There's no point in fighting with him. By the time Hunter Sullivan gave his instructions to his subordinates, Finn Taylor had finished his meal, and the others had gotten ready. The group then set off for New York. New York was Hunter Sullivan's territory. Even though he had already moved to San Francisco, he still held influence there. He believed that it wouldn't be difficult for him to ask for some help in surrounding the Taylor siblings. Instead of heading to that hotel, the group headed to Hunter Sullivan's residence. After all, they had only one chance. Finn Taylor was definitely not going to alert his enemy just yet. After a few days of observation, the group finally managed to get a good idea of what was going on in the hotel. They now knew where the security officers and surveillance cameras were positioned and how to get into Wendy Jensen's room without being discovered. Finally, they started to take action. The 6 of them were split into 2 groups. Hunter Sullivan and Finn Taylor were together, with Logan Yates leading the rest. The 2 groups headed into the hotel, toward Wendy Jensen's room, from 2 different directions. As Finn Taylor walked into the hotel, the 2 security officers glanced at him. However, the former acted as though he saw nothing and walked straight in. As for Hunter Sullivan, he had been through life and death situations, so this wasn't going to scare him. Neither of the guards suspected a thing as the pair walked into the hotel. The pair walked toward the elevator on the left side of the building, while the other group headed to the elevator on the right side. Both posed their own set of dangers. According to the map that Leonard had given Finn Taylor, the pair would walk past the Taylor siblings' room while the other group would walk past their subordinates' rooms. This meant that they were in danger of being exposed whether they entered from the right side or the left side of the building. To be honest, Finn Taylor was confused as to why Melanie Taylor would arrange for the rooms to be as such. Aren't her men supposed to protect them? Why would she put them so far away from herself? But that's a good thing for us. By now, both groups had arrived at the floor where the siblings were staying. Standing at both ends of the corridor, the two groups glanced at each other, not moving. Finally, Finn Taylor nodded, and the pair walked toward the room in the middle. Actually, it was safer for Finn Taylor and Hunter Sullivan because there were only 2 rooms on this side of the corridor. The other group had to walk past over a dozen rooms. Finally, Finn Taylor arrived in front of the siblings' rooms. The rooms were opposite each other, and in front of them was Wendy Jensen's room. However, the pair stopped in their tracks. They each stood in front of a room, listening to what each of the siblings was doing. Logan Yates's team would be in charge of saving the hostage. Finn Taylor was now sure that there was nobody in Levi Taylor's room. Both the siblings were in Melanie Taylor's. Logan Yates walked to the door and nodded before pushing it open and walking in. It was exceptionally easy for him to open the door. In the room, Wendy Jensen was still bound. Perhaps it was because she had been exhausted from struggling, but she was no longer moving much. But the moment she saw the men, she started struggling yet again, causing a din. There was only a thin wall between her and the Taylor siblings. Hearing the sounds, Levi Taylor pointed next door. "Do you want to go have a look?" Finn Taylor heard that, and he nervously prepared himself for a battle. As long as Levi Taylor stepped foot out of his room, he would attack him. That was his chance, otherwise, he might be defeated by the other. "She's been going at it for a long time. Don't bother about her." Thankfully, Melanie Taylor ignored her brother. In the other room, Logan Yates gestured for the woman to remain silent. "Wendy Jensen, don't say anything. We're here to save you." Hearing that, Wendy Jensen kept quiet. Logan Yates quickly untied the ropes and quietly led the woman out. The group finally felt a sense of relief. However, Logan Yates hadn't told the woman enough, and she let out a yelp the moment she walked out and spotted her son. It wasn't loud, but the siblings must have heard her. "We're done for." At that moment, everyone knew that things were going down. Just as expected, Finn Taylor heard Melanie Taylor walk toward them. On the other side of the corridor, doors opened one after another, and the siblings' subordinates quickly made their way over too. "You guys leave first. I'll take care of this," Finn Taylor commanded. However, nobody dared to move. If they were to leave Finn Taylor here alone, it was possible that the latter would die right here. "Leave. Are you going to ignore me?" Eventually, Hunter Sullivan grabbed Wendy Jensen and rushed downstairs. Although the rest of the group felt awful about leaving him alone, they had no other choice. They knew that leaving was the better choice for everyone. When the siblings got out of their rooms, what they saw was the group escaping with Wendy Jensen, and Finn Taylor blocking the stairwell. However, Melanie Taylor didn't give an order for her men to chase after the others. Wendy Jensen had never been her target. Finn Taylor was the only one she cared the slightest bit about in the entire Taylor family from Chicago, and only the slightest bit. Melanie Taylor clapped. "What a great scene. How moving. You can deal with me. There's no need to drag anyone else into this." "Who are you talking about?" "Wendy Jensen, or your ex-wife Yvette Larson." Hearing Yvette Larson's name, Finn Taylor felt his heart leap in his chest. Nonetheless, he pretended to be indifferent. He couldn't let the other see that he still cared about his ex-wife, otherwise, she'd be in danger. "Nobody else is involved in this. If you want to deal with me, fine. Let's make a bet on our businesses in San Francisco. If you win, I'll hand over the position of Master Peregrine. If you lose, scram and go back to where you belong. What do you think of that?" "Interesting. How interesting." Melanie Taylor's interest was piqued. "There aren't many who dare to go against me in the business world. I've never come in second place when it comes to business, whether it be investments or others. Why does Finn Taylor think he can win?" "Fine, I'll accept your challenge. But I don't have much time. 1 month, just 1 month." Finn Taylor nodded. This was good news to both of them. If he could resolve this matter between Melanie Taylor and him within a month, he could get remarried to Yvette Larson. Melanie Taylor didn't have time to waste, nor did Finn Taylor. Finn Taylor glanced at Levi Taylor before chuckling. "Why are you two always in the same room when I visit? Why don't you go visit the orthopedist when you have time?" With that, he turned to leave. The atmosphere was awkward now that Finn Taylor had said so, and the siblings stood in silence as though the man had exposed them. Just as expected, Melanie Taylor turned around to see that her men were now looking at her in a different light. Enraged, she stomped back to her room and slammed the door shut. Levi Taylor now hated his relative to his guts. We're biological siblings. How dare Finn Taylor insinuate that and insult us like that? As he left the hotel, Finn Taylor found his subordinates waiting for him. He rushed over and said nothing. The longer they stayed outside, the more danger they were in. Once they arrived at Hunter Sullivan's house, Finn Taylor turned to his mother. Hee, I never thought that I would decide to save you one day. Wendy Jensen was placed in an awkward position and didn't know what to say. She didn't have a good relationship with her son, so she thought that he wouldn't save her after she was kidnapped. Yet, he had shown up. Go back to Chicago. You're not welcome here, Finn Taylor said before heading upstairs. We're going back to San Francisco tomorrow. San Francisco. Michelle Yeller and Josie Meyer were at a cafe together. The two friends were in a daze. They had just been hired by the Larson Corporation, but the company was acquired right after that. Although they had joined Mortal Corporation with everyone else, they still held the same job titles and salaries. Neither of them understood what the company was up to and were discussing the matter with each other. Michelle, why do you think they sold the company? I asked around, and I heard that the chairman and the person who acquired the company hold grudges against each other. Grudges? Then, why would she sell the company to him? I don't know, but I also heard another rumor that our chairman just got divorced. Divorced? I wonder who her husband was. Why did they get divorced? Josie Meyer was gossipy and wanted to get to the bottom of the matter. I heard that his name is Finn Taylor and that he was caught on a date with our chairman's best friend. Fuck, I told you that all men are terrible, just like Timothy Taylor. Wasn't he caught with his wife's best friend too? He's a Taylor too. See, all men with that surname are bad. But her friend shook her head. I don't think so, Josie. There's no white or black in this world. There are good people as well as bad ones. You can't just group everyone together just because of one bad egg. Besides, I think Timothy is a good man. Josie Meyer hated Finn Taylor. No matter what, she wasn't going to believe her friend. However, Michelle Yeller was different. She had a good impression of the man. They couldn't help but wonder if they were talking about the same man. After some time, they made payment for their meal before leaving. But they had no sooner walked out of the cafe than their heads were covered by a sack before they were thrown into a car. They struggled, but it was to no avail. In the car, they were then knocked out. By the time they awoke, they were already in a dark room, surrounded by dozens of men. The two girls made a guess from the men's hair color, scars, and tattoos on their bodies. Who are you? Josie Meyer boldly questioned the men. Oh, you're not afraid of us. Afraid of you? Why should we be? Are you monsters or aliens? What are you after? Money or sex? A man walked out from the group. He was the leader of the gang, and his name was Kyle Kennedy. You're a bold one to dare to ask about our intentions. I could tell you, but you would have to die then. Josie Meyer sneered. Do you think you'll be able to scare us like that? If you're after neither of those things, then Quince Larson must have sent you because he has a grudge against Yvette Larson. Fuck. Kyle Kennedy's heart thumped. I had never expected her to make such an acute guess. It seems like I can't keep you alive then. Kyle Kennedy grabbed a dagger. What? You're going to kill us? Do you really think I'll be afraid of you? Come on. Here's my jugular vein, here's my heart, and here's my temple. Come on and kill me then. Josie didn't believe that Kyle Kennedy would kill her. They are simply trying to threaten Yvette Larson to cough up that $500 million. This is a problem between the business owners, while I'm a mere employee. Why am I being dragged into it? You don't dare to do it, right? Let us go then. Slap. Kyle Kennedy gave the woman a vicious slap against the wall. It was true that he wouldn't dare to kill a soul, but he could still beat the other up. How dare you slap me? I'll fight it out with you. Josie Meyer was retarded and was unreasonable to begin with. How could she still be fighting with Kyle Kennedy at this time? She was facing a bunch of men that were willing to sacrifice their own lives. It was just that she hadn't provoked them enough yet. If she were to go any further, she would be dead meat. Thankfully, Michelle Yeller grabbed her friend before the latter could rush forward. Bro, we're sorry, but this is a grudge between our bosses. It has nothing to do with lowly employees like us. I believe that you're magnanimous and won't hurt us, right? Kyle Kennedy finally calmed down after hearing her words. Alright, you're right, I won't hold it against you, but you better hand your phones over and not stir up any trouble. Josie Meyer was about to say something, but her friend stopped her before she could do so. After that, the latter quickly handed their phones over. Seeing how obedient Michelle Yeller was, Kyle Kennedy was pleased. He then gestured for his men to leave. Only when they left did Josie Meyer smash everything in the room in anger. But just then, her friend said, "I sent Timothy Taylor a message earlier." "A message?" "Yes, I pressed the voice recording button and sent the recording to him. He'll probably come and save us." Josie Meyer couldn't help but laugh. "Michelle, oh Michelle, you're such a fool. If you had sent the message to our chairman, she might have sent someone to come and save us. However, we're dead meat now." For some reason, Josie Meyer felt that something was amiss. Then, she suddenly thought of something. "That's not right. Why did you send a message to Timothy Taylor?" Her friend chuckled. "He's at the top of my chat list." This is what's wrong. Since the most recent chats are usually at the top of the list, Michelle must have contacted Timothy Taylor recently if she managed to message him so quickly. Now, everything made sense to Josie Meyer. New York. Finn Taylor had intended on having a good rest before leaving the city, yet he received a message the moment he walked up the stairs. It was a voice message from Michelle Yeller. There wasn't much in it, but it was clear that the young girl was in danger. He rushed down the stairs and said, "Andre Cavill, I'll leave it to you to send her back to Chicago. The rest of you, pack your things. We'll set off for San Francisco in 5 minutes." Seeing their boss in such a frenzy, the men didn't dare to question him and simply packed their belongings. They could discuss the matter along the way back. Because they were well trained, they didn't even take 3 minutes to pack their bags and hop into the car. Hunter Sullivan drove, Logan Yates sat in the front passenger seat, and the rest sat behind them. Hunter Sullivan asked, "Finn, why are you in such a hurry? Did something happen in San Francisco?" Finn Taylor handed his phone to Horned Serpent. "She might have been kidnapped. Locate her whereabouts." The latter took the phone from his boss and immediately started tracing the other's location. "Who's she?" Hunter Sullivan asked. "A neighbor." "She must be a woman for you to be so worried." "Shut up." Everyone chuckled because they knew that he was joking. They all knew that their boss would remain loyal to Yvette Larson till the day he died. All other women could dream on about taking her place. It was complete nonsense that Finn Taylor was worried sick about his female neighbor. He hadn't even been that worried about the 4 guardians. That was how he treated his friend. She would never let them down. As the car sped toward San Francisco, all that could be heard in the car was the sound of Horned Serpent typing furiously on his keyboard. Everyone else merely watched on, hoping that the man in front of the laptop would locate the girl as quickly as possible. However, one could only imagine how difficult it was to locate someone in such a vast city with only a single voice message. They were about to arrive in San Francisco, yet they still had no news from him. Alexander Scott wiped away the sweat from Zachary Kennedy's forehead and nodded at the latter. Finn Taylor piped up, "There's no hurry. Take your time." Zachary Kennedy remained silent and continued typing, but it was obvious that he was no longer typing as furiously. He had indeed been too nervous earlier. Now that he had calmed himself down, he made good progress. Gradually, he started receiving faint signals from Michelle Yeller's phone. What he had to do now was catch the signals. His typing increased in speed yet again. Just as they drove into San Francisco, Zachary Kennedy hit the spacebar. "I found her." Hearing that, Finn Taylor immediately snatched the laptop away. He couldn't help but chuckle when he saw the girl's location. "Nile Street, isn't that where we used to live? I haven't been there since we moved to number 1 Pacific Heights. I never expected Michelle Yeller to be held captive there. Let's go to Nile Street at once," he commanded, and Hunter Sullivan headed straight for the location. At the same time, Nile Street in San Francisco. Kyle Kennedy was in the middle of a poker game with his men when Howard Dahl arrived. The latter was a formidable figure in the neighborhood. In fact, he was probably the head of the underground scene in the area. Naturally, that included Kyle Kennedy. "Kyle Kennedy, you look very relaxed. How many people have signed the document?" Seeing the man arrive, Kyle Kennedy immediately shot up from his seat. The former was referring to the relocation agreement. Finn Taylor and Melanie Taylor had set the time limit for their bet to be 1 month. In order for Finn Taylor to admit to his defeat thoroughly, the latter had decided to demolish the entire neighborhood where Finn Taylor had lived for the past 3 years and build San Francisco's largest public toilet. There were too many families living in the area, and Melanie Taylor naturally didn't have the time to discuss the matter with every family. That was why she had looked for Howard Dahl and offered the man $15 million to get all the families living there to sign a relocation agreement within 3 days. Whatever was left of the $15 million after that would be his. However, he could forget about getting a single cent of the money if he failed to achieve his task within 3 days. Of course, Howard Dahl wasn't a fool either. There was no way he would be able to visit each family personally, so he assigned 10 families to each of his underlings, instructing them to complete the task within the day. He didn't care what they had to do, no matter how vicious they had to be, as long as the agreement was signed. Howard Dahl was now doing his rounds to check on his men, yet he was greeted by the sight of Kyle Kennedy playing poker. "Boss, we've already settled 3 families. The other 7 weren't at home, and they're probably at work. We'll definitely make them sign it by tonight," Kyle Kennedy quickly explained. Only then did the enraged Howard Dahl calm down slightly. "I'll check in on you again tomorrow. You better know that I'll break your legs if someone hasn't signed the agreement by tomorrow." Kyle Kennedy only let out a sigh of relief when his boss left. In reality, he hadn't even managed to convince a single family to sign that document. It was relocation they were talking about. It wasn't easy convincing someone when such a huge sum of money was involved. It was true that 7 families hadn't been around, but even the 3 that had been around hadn't agreed to sign the agreement. Only fools would agree to the offer right away. After all, everyone was hoping that they would be able to make a tidy sum if they were to delay agreeing to the relocation. No matter how impressive Kyle Kennedy was, he couldn't afford to kick up a huge fuss. If it were a trivial matter, they might have agreed to it right away. But now that he was dealing with such a huge matter, they might very well bring their entire family to stir up trouble for him. "Boss, what do we do now? What do we do? How am I supposed to know? It's not like I get to pocket that $15 million. Since Howard Dahl is so impressive, why doesn't he go chase those families for their signatures himself?" It was obvious that Kyle Kennedy held a grudge against his boss for treating him as free labor. Not long after Howard Dahl left, Kyle Kennedy received a call from Finn Taylor. Because Finn Taylor had lived in the Nile Street neighborhood in the past, Howard Dahl knew the former. In fact, he was also one of Finn Taylor's subordinates. Howard Dahl felt his heart pounding furiously as he picked up the call from Finn Taylor. All of a sudden, he remembered that the latter's house was among those that were to be demolished and that a public toilet was going to be built in its place. Moreover, he was helping out in this relocation project. "I'll be dead meat if Finn Taylor finds out about this." In his call, Finn Taylor merely instructed Howard Dahl to pick him up from the entrance gate to the neighborhood. Howard Dahl wasted no time rushing to the entrance and almost burst into tears when he saw all 4 guardians standing there. This Finn Taylor called all 4 of them over. "Does he really intend on dealing with me because of this? Forget it, I have to apologize first." He rushed over and dropped down on his knees before Master Peregrine could even say anything. Finn Taylor was confused. "I had asked for Howard Dahl to lead the way to the location we had on hand in case we got lost. Yet, Howard Dahl kneeled down to me before I could even say anything. It's obvious that something is wrong." "What's up?" Finn Taylor put on a stern expression as he questioned the man. "Master Peregrine, I was wrong. Melanie Taylor was the one who put me up to it. She's an influential figure, and I can't afford to offend her." Finn Taylor's first thought was that his relative had kidnapped Michelle Yeller. But that's not right. Melanie Taylor is such an arrogant and jealous woman, yet she didn't even touch Yvette. There's no way she would do anything to Michelle. The latter is just a neighbor, and it would be too extreme to deal with her. Something else must be up. "Tell me more," Finn Taylor demanded. "Master Peregrine, it's Melanie Taylor. She wants to buy out the whole neighborhood and build a public toilet here. I'm just working on getting everyone's signatures, this has nothing to do with me." Howard Dahl was already in tears, with snot running down his face. "I'll deal with that later. Let's talk about something else. Your men kidnapped my friend. What's going on?" Howard Dahl was stunned. "My men kidnapped Finn Taylor's friend? Is he serious? If he's telling the truth, I'm doomed. He's Finn Taylor, Master Peregrine. His friend is probably a big shot too. If my subordinates have kidnapped his friend, I'll be dragged down and be in deep trouble too. Master Peregrine, I swear I don't know anything about it. I'll definitely beat that person up if he really did it." Finn Taylor nodded at Horned Serpent, who then showed Howard Dahl the location. "Kyle Kennedy." Howard Dahl immediately said the name when he saw the location. "I was just there, and everything had appeared fine just moments earlier. I never expected Kyle Kennedy to get involved with Finn Taylor's friend. Master Peregrine, I know where they are. I'll lead the way." Finn Taylor nodded. Howard Dahl was slightly moved when he saw the other nodding. This meant that he still had a chance and that he wasn't done for just yet. With Howard Dahl leading them, the group quickly arrived where Kyle Kennedy was. When they arrived, Kyle Kennedy was still in the middle of his poker game with his men. Howard Dahl charged forward and grabbed hold of him. "Kyle Kennedy, where are the people you kidnapped?" "Kidnapped? I didn't kidnap anyone. Kyle Kennedy naturally denied everything. It was against the rules for him to do this without his boss's approval. He would be doomed if he admitted to it. Kyle Kennedy, I'm giving you one last chance. You'll be dead meat otherwise. I didn't kidnap anyone. Howard Dahl subdued the other and pressed him against the table. In an instant, Kyle Kennedy's pinky finger was chopped off. Chills ran down everyone's spines. It was only then that Kyle Kennedy's subordinates realized that something was amiss. Our boss must have kidnapped a big shot for this to happen. Eventually, one of them spoke up. I know where they are. Bring us there. Finn Taylor cut in just then. Although that man didn't recognize Finn Taylor, he knew that the latter had to be an influential figure since he had walked in with Howard Dahl. As such, he immediately gestured for the group to follow him. Bang! Finn Taylor kicked open the door of Kyle Kennedy's house. As light shone into the place, the two girls were shocked to see Finn Taylor's face. Finn Taylor rushed over to help Michelle Yeller up from the ground. Are you all right? Mr. Taylor, you're finally here to save me. Michelle Yellerwo had been putting up a strong front earlier, finally burst out into tears as she rushed into Finn Taylor's embrace. All four guardians turned away, pretending not to have seen anything. How else would they be able to answer Yvette Larson if she asked about it in the future? If they were to say anything about it, Finn Taylor would probably beat them to death. However, lying didn't seem right either. Thus, turning away was their best choice. Yes, that way, they wouldn't see anything and would have nothing to say. At least, that was what they all thought. You're here to save us? Josie Meyer's eyes were filled with disbelief. She was indignant. She had clearly told her friend that Finn Taylor would never come to save them and that they might have gotten the chance to be saved if they had asked for help from someone else. They didn't stand a chance at all with Finn Taylor. He was useless after all. During her few interactions with Finn Taylor, he had never helped her. Due to this, Josie Meyer believed that he wouldn't help her this time either. You're wrong. I'm here to save Michelle. As for you, Finn Taylor didn't continue, but it was clear what he meant. If not for the fact that Michelle Yeller was her friend, Finn Taylor never would have come for her. His words annoyed Josie Meyer even more. Ever since she was young, she had always thought of herself as superior to her friend. As such, their friendship had always revolved around her. As long as she made a decision, Michelle Yeller would never object to it. But now, Finn Taylor was treating her so coldly even though he was friendly to Michelle Yeller. It was as though she was nothing but a trash bag. Timothy Taylor, don't cross the line. Josie Meyer roared, but it was too late. Finn Taylor had already left with her friend. She could choose to follow them if she could put down her pride. Otherwise, she could simply stay there. Eventually, Josie Meyer had no other choice but to chase after them. In reality, Josie Meyer hated the idea of leaving with Finn Taylor, yet there was nothing she could do. This was Kyle Kennedy's turf. If she stayed here alone without Finn Taylor, she would probably die a horrible death. Finn Taylor didn't try to stop her. After all, he couldn't possibly leave her there. If he did so, it would be hard for him to give an answer to Michelle Yeller. Finn Taylor instructed his men to leave, and he was the only one left there. He had gone there to save Michelle Yeller, but now that he knew about Melanie Taylor's plan to acquire the neighborhood, he had to stay to plan his moves. Hunter Sullivan glanced at Logan Yates and handed the car keys to the latter. You guys can leave, I'll stay. The latter knew that his friend was worried for their boss's safety and didn't object to it. Finn Taylor was indifferent when he heard that, and he turned to the other man. Howard Dahl, let's have a chat. The latter was still trembling in fear, but he naturally didn't dare to reject Master Peregrine. Thus, he could only nod in agreement. The trio quickly arrived at a cafe. Finn Taylor glanced around. He had frequented the place in the past, but he hadn't been back ever since he moved out of the neighborhood. Howard Dahl, your subordinate kidnapped my friend. Do you still want to live? Howard Dahl burst out into tears. Mr. Taylor, this has nothing to do with me. You know that I'm loyal to you. I would never dare to kidnap your friend. Oh, you're loyal to me. Why don't I know that? If you're loyal to me, why are you helping Melanie Taylor to demolish my house? Howard Dahl had already expected his boss to bring the matter up. Master Peregrine, this is really a misunderstanding. Didn't you move out? I thought that you sold your house. Melanie Taylor approached me, and you know that I'm nobody too. I'm no match for her. I have to survive too, so I had no other choice. While saying so, he stole a glance at Finn Taylor. However, the latter was unmoved and didn't even try to cut in. Only after Howard Dahl finished his monologue did he finally speak. Do you think that I'll believe whatever you say? Howard Dahl had already been feeling guilty, and he realized that it was no use no matter how nicely he framed it. His words would only trick 3-year-olds, but it was Master Peregrine sitting in front of him. Thud, Howard Dahl fell on his knees yet again. Master Peregrine, I was wrong. Please punish me. I'll gladly take any punishment you give me. Finn Taylor chuckled. He was no fool, and neither was Howard Dahl. If he wanted to kill the latter, he would already be dead by now. It was obvious that he had a plan for the latter, and that was why they were having a chat now. This was also why Howard Dahl had gone down on his knees. He knew that Master Peregrine wouldn't kill him as long as he humbled himself and gave the latter all due respect. He understood what Finn Taylor was thinking, and the converse was true. Tell me, how much did Melanie Taylor give you? $15 million. Howard Dahl had no intention of hiding anything from the other. That's quite a huge sum of money. I'll give you this card buy out the entire neighborhood. You don't have to worry about how much it costs as long as you manage to do it. Howard Dahl was stunned. Not only did the other not pursue the matter, but he is even giving me a bank card. He had never expected Finn Taylor to trust him that much. Master Peregrine, aren't you afraid that I'll run off with your money? The man chuckled. At the very most, I'll have another name on the Master Peregrine order. Those 3 words terrified Howard Dahl. He might not be afraid of anything else, but the Master Peregrine order was different. There were men who belonged to Peregrine Hall all over the country. As long as his name was on the Master Peregrine order, he'd be a wanted man. Then, he would really be done for. In the hotel, Melanie Taylor threw her bag onto the bed. She glanced at her brother. Didn't you say that you wanted to chase Yvette Larson? How's your progress? The latter shook his head. I haven't started. I was about to start when you asked me to go to New York. Oh right. Just then, someone knocked on the door. Levi Taylor headed to the door, only to find his subordinate standing there. Is something wrong? Linda James is here. Melanie Taylor was confused. Linda James? Very obviously, Melanie Taylor didn't recognize that name. She's Yvette Larson's mother. Hey, isn't she Timothy Taylor's mother-in-law? No, ex-mother-in-law. How interesting. Why is she here? Bring her to the restaurant. The other man nodded and set out to work. Come on, let's go and have a look. Don't you want to woo Yvette Larson? She might be your future mother-in-law then. Sis, don't joke around. Mother-in-law, I'm just fooling around with her. Do you think I'll really treat her like a treasure? Melanie Taylor knew that her brother would never fall for Yvette Larson, and she was only teasing her brother. By the time the siblings arrived at the restaurant, Linda James had already been waiting for a long time. Melanie Taylor had done this on purpose to exert her dominance. Although they had met before, they didn't know each other. After the pair took their seats, Linda James introduced herself. Let me introduce myself. My name is Linda James. I'm Finn Taylor's ex-mother-in-law. My daughter has already gotten a divorce from him, so we have nothing to do with him now. Melanie Taylor sneered inwardly. Are you emphasizing that fact because you're afraid that you'll be implicated? The older woman shook her head. No, of course not. I can tell that you're such a kind and magnanimous person, Ms. Taylor. I'm sure that you won't come after us since we have nothing to do with Finn Taylor now. Melanie Taylor waved her off. I have no time to listen to your nonsense. The Larson family is too insignificant. It isn't just you. I can't even be bothered with your husband or daughter. Why don't you cut to the chase and tell me why you're here today? Linda James immediately got up from her seat and bowed apologetically. Actually, I'd like to collaborate with you. Collaborate with me? Yes, a collaboration. I know that you're trying to deal with Finn Taylor. I'm sure you don't know about his plans, but I can get my daughter to act as your spy. Of course, you'll have to pay me for it. Melanie Taylor had never seen anything as shameless as the woman in front of her. Linda James, look at where you're living. Number 1 Pacific Heights. Your family never would have gotten the chance to stay in such a luxurious house even if you were to work for 10 entire lifetimes. It's only because of Finn Taylor that you're living there. Forget about the divorce, but how could you kick him to the curb and backstab him now? Melanie Taylor couldn't help but criticize the other woman inwardly, but that had nothing to do with her. They were a family. The more viciously they fought, the happier she would be. All right, contact me once you have news. I'll definitely reward you with a satisfactory sum. Linda James bowed repeatedly, thanking the younger lady profusely. Linda James, I heard that your daughter is the prettiest woman in all of San Francisco. That's true. Linda James was exceptionally confident. Just take a look at her mother. She then took out her daughter's photo. My daughter is beautiful, isn't she? Yes, she is. Have you ever thought about finding your daughter a husband? She can't remain a widow for life. My daughter isn't a widow. Oh, You're saying that Finn Taylor is dead to us? Yes, yes, my daughter is a widow. Actually, I've been thinking of finding a husband for her, but she won't take a fancy to just any average man. Come on, I'll introduce you to an outstanding one then. Really, who is that? Melanie Taylor patted her brother on the shoulder. My younger brother Levi Taylor. What do you think? Linda James had been rather excited just moments earlier because someone recommended by Melanie Taylor would definitely be of a certain caliber. However, she was discouraged after hearing Levi Taylor's name. How could this young man possibly fall for my daughter? Don't joke around with me, Ms. Taylor. Who's joking around? My brother has taken a fancy to your daughter. If you agree to it, you can invite him back for dinner for them to get to know each other. Linda James was still in disbelief. Well, it's true that Yvette is pretty. Has he really fallen for her? What, are you not satisfied with me, Linda James? Of course, I am. I'll go and arrange it at once. You must come for dinner tonight then. Linda James walked away, elated. Watching Linda James's departing figure, the siblings could only sneer. She's such a vicious woman. I can't believe she gave her daughter and son-in-law away. Yes, she is. Finn Taylor immediately returned home once he gave Howard Dahl his instructions. He then knocked on Michelle Yeller's door. The moment the latter saw him, she rushed into his arms. Come back. Josie Meyer dragged her friend away. Timothy Taylor, did you arrange for us to be kidnapped so that you could save a damsel in distress? Michelle Yeller didn't catch that, but did you think that I wouldn't realize? Finn Taylor couldn't help but admire Josie Meyer for her stupidity. It's a pity that she isn't a writer. Do you really not know why you guys were kidnapped? Besides, I only saved you because Michelle sent a message to me. If I were the one who planned this, how would I resolve this if Michelle didn't send me a message? Michelle Yeller nodded. That's right. Besides, wasn't it Quince Larson who kidnapped us? Quince Larson? Finn Taylor was stumped. What does this have to do with Quince Larson? What's going on, Michelle? Josie Meyer harumphed. Does it have anything to do with you? Do you mean that you're going to take revenge on Quince Larson for us? She then slammed the door shut. Finn Taylor shrugged. I do want to interfere in the matter, but I have to understand what happened in the first place. I'm in no place to do anything if I know nothing. Sigh. Finn Taylor felt a little helpless. He was here to bid the young girl farewell because he was making a trip to Chicago. Since Southeast Asia's Taylor family was now in the picture, he had to consolidate his power, and that meant that Benjamin Taylor and his sons could scram from the family. Unfortunately, he hadn't gotten the chance to say what he wanted before Josie Meyer slammed the door shut. However, that didn't matter. We're just neighbors. By the time I come back, everything will be different. Nothing will matter then. Finn Taylor returned home to pack his bags before making his way to the airport. This time, he was headed back alone and had made a call to his mother in advance, asking if she was willing to help him consolidate his power in the Taylor family. Although she said that she would try her best to help him, Finn Taylor couldn't be sure if his mother was telling the truth. However, he could tell that their relationship had improved ever since he had saved her. On the plane, Finn Taylor couldn't help but smile bitterly. I have been too soft-hearted and chose to forgive her, but that doesn't matter. There is no way I could have simply severed ties with my mother. Besides, Finn Taylor knew that his mother had always been carrying out orders from others. She had never had the final say. With nothing else to do, Finn Taylor engrossed himself in a book. But just then, a young child of about 3 to 4 years old started sobbing. Her mother was in an awkward position and tried to comfort her, but nothing seemed to work. The child continued sobbing her heart out. Eventually, 2 burly men walked up to her. You idiot, can you shut up? Otherwise, I'll throw you out of here. Not only did that not stop the child from crying, but it even frightened the young girl even more. Finn Taylor placed his book down and said, She's just a child. You can just wear headphones. The 2 men waved their fingers at Finn Taylor. This has nothing to do with you, brat. You better shut up. Finn Taylor sneered. You said that the child is making too much noise and is affecting you. You're making too much noise, and you're the ones annoying me. It was usual for children to be throwing tantrums, and the young girl's mother was already doing her best to calm her down. Besides, all passengers were given noise-canceling headphones. They were more than welcome to use them if they thought that the child was too noisy. However, they refused to let the matter Gothi clearly had other intentions. Brat, are they your family? Why do you keep speaking up for them? Isn't it the truth that she's disturbing us? Don't you think that you're being ridiculous by saying that we're annoying you? Before Finn Taylor could say anything, that young girl's mother had already stood up and quickly apologized. I'm so sorry, My daughter is still young. I'll keep her in line. Keep her in line. She looks like she's already 3 but can't even control herself. I think she must be mentally challenged. The young girl was already timid to begin with, and she grew even more panicked when she met their fierce gazes. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Do you think an apology will cut it? If an apology worked, there would be world peace. Give us $3,000, and we'll forget the matter. The din drew the attention of an air stewardess. Sir, what's going on? Could you please return to your seats? This girl is too noisy, and I'm feeling very uncomfortable. I want her to compensate me for my mental health. The air stewardess was left in an awkward position. This was a tricky situation to deal with. Why don't I find a pair of noise-canceling headphones for you? Who wants that? I'm here to enjoy my flight, not to suffer. The mother of the child apologized once again. I'm so sorry. I'm a single mother and don't have any money to give you. My child is still young. I promise you that she won't make any more noise. Do you think I care about a promise like that? You've already made me feel uncomfortable. You better hurry up and pay me. That child was naturally at fault for making a fuss, but she had already apologized for it. The men were clearly making a mountain out of a molehill. Finally, Finn Taylor stood up and scoffed at those two arrogant men. $3,000. I'll give you $30,000. Finn Taylor's words delighted them. Just as they reached out for the money, Finn Taylor threw a punch toward their chests. The men then fell down onto the ground and clutched their chests, feeling as though their internal organs were being flipped inside out. $30,000 seems too little. Why don't I give you another $30,000? The two men who had been exceptionally arrogant just moments earlier were now terrified by the man's words. They had almost lost their lives with just one punch and would probably die if they were to be punched yet again. Don't. We were wrong. We don't want anything. It was our fault, and we won't do it again. The two men grimaced in pain as they crawled up from the ground and kowtowed to the other man. Their dignity didn't matter at this moment. Only their lives mattered. Scram and get back to your seats. The two men thanked Finn Taylor profusely. Thank you. The woman expressed her gratitude to Finn Taylor, and the little girl handed a piece of candy to him as well. He broke out into a wide smile. It has been years since others offered me candy. Sarah Eden was probably the last one who did so. I wonder what's happened to that brat. Sarah Eden had once been Finn Taylor's neighbor, but a rather distant one. Her family had run a small snack store, and the latter had often stopped by for snacks when he was a child, so much so that the young girl's mother personally prepared them. Every time Finn Taylor visited, Sarah Eden would always give him a lollipop. At that time, they had all been rather poor. Even though a lollipop seemed worthless, it meant the world to a kid. That was why Finn Taylor had never forgotten about it. It had been a light in his dark childhood. Sir, please return to your seat, reminded the air stewardess. Finn Taylor nodded and returned to his seat before the stewardess helped him fasten his seatbelt. From where Finn Taylor was seated, the other's chest was in his direct line of sight. As she got up, she even brushed her chest against Finn Taylor's face. Hi, my name is Snowy. You can look for me if you need anything. She even left her name. Finn Taylor merely smiled blandly, not taking her words to heart. No matter what their intentions were, Finn Taylor had never taken an interest in any other women. Yvette Larson was the only one in his heart. Very quickly, the plane landed in Chicago. Just as Finn Taylor was getting off the plane, Snowy chased after him. She shouted for him, but he ignored her and walked on. This annoyed her, but just as she was about to catch up to him, she spotted him getting into a luxury car. There was a middle-aged woman seated in the back row beside him. What, is he being sponsored by a sugar mommy? Thinking about that possibility, Snowy grew even more uncomfortable. I practically gave myself to him just now. Any normal man wouldn't be able to control his urges, but that man had. I had already thought that it was strange earlier, but the cat is finally out of the bag now. It isn't because he can control his urges but because he is being backed by an old woman. Snowy could hardly contain her disgust. The one who had come to pick Finn Taylor up from the airport was naturally Wendy Jensen. The lady whom Snowy had mistaken as a sugar mommy was actually Finn Taylor's mother. However, Finn Taylor had no idea about what was going through that young lady's mind. In the car, you're finally back to take over the reins of the family. Finn Taylor sneered. Is it just as you wished? If not for Grandpa, I wouldn't even care about the Taylor family. There's no point in talking about these things now. Have you thought about how you're going to deal with the three of them? I have my plans. You don't have to bother about it. Instead of driving to the Taylor family's residence, the car headed for a mansion that Finn Taylor had purchased with his own means. Finn, you're really changing my impression of you. You've been planning this since you were 6, and you bought such a huge mansion without any help from the family. What, did you think that I'd die without you guys? Just then, Felicity arrived. She knew of this place, or rather, she came here every week to clean up the place. That was why the mansion was in such good condition. As Felicity walked in, she completely ignored Wendy Jensen and turned straight to Finn Taylor. Master Peregrine. Oh, have you brought it here? The lady handed a piece of paper over. It's in such a rural area. Curious, Wendy Jensen peered over. What are you guys looking at? Felicity spun around and grabbed the other woman's neck. You better not look at it. You're not on the same side as Master Peregrine. Be careful, I might just kill you. Wendy Jensen was incensed and roared back, how dare you? We're mother and son, and you're just a servant. How dare you speak to me like that? Mother and son, servant, hee hee, I was the one who stayed by your son's side when you abandoned him, but you're now saying that you're his mother. Wendy Jensen was fuming, yet there was nothing she could say. All right, get ready, we'll leave in 3 days' time. Finn Taylor then started packing his belongings. His mother was extremely curious about the situation, but it was clear that neither of the two was going to let her in on anything. She felt a sour twinge in her heart. He's my son, my biological son. Why are we so distant? Besides, hasn't our relationship already improved compared to the past? Stay here and don't even think of going back to the Taylor family's residence in these 3 days, Finn Taylor instructed his mother. Why, I'm just afraid that you'll tell those 3 people about what's going on here. What are you saying? I'm your mother. Do you not trust me? You're right, I don't trust you. Wendy Jensen nearly vomited blood, but her son was right. The next 3 days were like hell on earth for her. It felt no different from being imprisoned, yet her son couldn't care less about her. 3 days later, her son informed her that he was going to leave with Felicity while she had to stay. This infuriated Wendy Jensen. Over the past 3 days, her son had at least been around in the house with her. But now that they were all leaving, she was going to be bored to death. Paying no heed to her tantrum, Finn Taylor left for the woods outside Chicago with Felicity. It was a deserted and uninhabited area that was full of flora and fauna. Because Finn Taylor had an acute sense of hearing, he could even hear the howls of wolves. Yet, they still trudged on into the depths of the woods. As they made their way through the dense foliage according to the map, they finally spotted a small, wooden hut. In front of the hut were a man and a woman. They were dressed like aboriginals, completely different from people from modern society. Finn Taylor and Felicity approached the pair. Hello, may we ask if you're the legendary knights we've heard about? Scram, the man replied curtly. I'm Master Peregrine. I'd like to ask Lancelot and Guinevere for some help. The latter two had once been part of Peregrine Hall but seemed to have left after a huge tussle. At that time, Peregrine Hall had held it against them and tried to go against them in every way possible. That was why the pair had been unable to survive in modern society and had moved into the depths of the woods. Naturally, they flared up upon hearing that Master Peregrine was here to look for them. Brat, I advise you to leave right now. I haven't killed you because I'm in a good mood today. Otherwise, you'd already be a corpse on the ground, said the lady. Finn Taylor hadn't expected the lady to be as brutal and straightforward as the man. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding between us. There's no misunderstanding at all. Scram, Lancelot roared. Jacob Taylor must have been the one who went against the two of you, right? What, are you not related to him? Guinevere sneered. I am, I'm his son, the lady then replied. Scram then. Don't be in such a hurry to chase me away. I've been abandoned by the Taylor family. Jacob Taylor tried all ways to kill me, and I only survived and became the next Master Peregrine out of pure luck. Just like you, I have a grudge against Jacob Taylor. Guinevere was stunned. You hold a grudge against Jacob Taylor? Yes, not only him but also Frida Cameron. What's your name? Timothy Taylor, Finn Taylor answered. Silence. Both Lancelot and Guinevere were in a daze. You're Timothy Taylor. Didn't they say that you were already dead? Of course, they can't wait for me to die. Unfortunately, I'm still alive and kicking. Now that he had said so, the pair understood that Finn Taylor wasn't trying to go against them. On the contrary, they had a common enemy, Jacob Taylor. I'm here today to ask a favor of the two of you. Lancelot laughed. Brat, we would have killed you if not for the fact that you're just like us and bear a grudge against Jacob Taylor. However, you're still his son. We won't leave you, you better leave. Finn Taylor understood the other's temper and knew that the latter probably wouldn't leave without a fight. As such, he charged forward. Lancelot merely chuckled and lifted up his fist. Bang! With only one blow, Finn Taylor fell onto the ground, unconscious. Witnessing that, Felicity rushed up too. But just then, Guinevere stepped forward and rendered her unconscious too. Sigh, they can't even take a blow. Why are they here? We have to drag them out now. Lancelot clapped helplessly. Don't be in such a hurry to chase them away. You were once part of Peregrine Hall too. Aren't you going to invite him for a cup of tea at the very least? A deep voice thundered over them from all around. Lancelot had never felt such fear in his life. I'm here. Lancelot looked in the direction of the voice, realizing that a man was standing on the roof of the hut. Maximus Bruegel. Lancelot, Guinevere, long time no see. What are you up to, Maximus Bruegel? Nothing much. I just want to invite you guys out of this place. Out of this place? Yes, on his behalf. Fuck. Lancelot couldn't help but curse. You're thousands of times stronger than me. Why don't you help him instead of asking for our help? I have more important things to deal with. He needs someone to protect him, and you two seem like a good choice. What can you do to me if we decide not to go? Thud. Maximus Bruegel jumped down from the rooftop, and the wooden hut quaked. You're free to refuse my request as long as you manage to win this match against me. The couple had never even considered dueling Maximus Bruegel. They hadn't even noticed the man jumping onto the rooftop, and he had destroyed their entire hut as he jumped off it. His powers were truly incredible. Even together, the couple was no match for him, and they quickly gave up on the idea. Can we not go? Lancelot pleaded. Come on then, let's have a match. Forget it, I think we'd better go. By the time Finn Taylor awoke, he was already lying in a hotel room with Felicity by his side. Lancelot and Guinevere were seated by the window. You're awake. You guys didn't kill me. At the moment that he fainted, Finn Taylor had wondered if the couple was going to kill him because they held grudges against him. To be more accurate, they held a grudge against his father. However, he'd have to pay for it. Kill you? Didn't you ask for our help? What, were you asking us to kill you? Huh, Finn Taylor was confused. Didn't they want to kill me? Why are they suddenly helping me? What, why are you so suspicious of us when we're already willing to help you out? If we wanted to kill you, we would have done so a long time ago. Finn Taylor gave it some thought. He's right, given their abilities, it wouldn't even take much for them to kill me. Why would they let me off when I'll make trouble for them in the future? Although I don't know why you guys suddenly changed your minds, I'm willing to trust you. I'd like to ask for your help to get the Taylor family back. Would you be willing to help me? Brat, I just realized that you're really daring. Don't you know that we bear grudges against the Taylor family? Yes, but I'm from the Taylor family too. Aren't you guys still willing to help me? Finn Taylor's words stumped them. He makes sense. Since we've already decided to help him, we might as well help him get the Taylor family back too. Tell us more about it. Finn Taylor then told the couple everything that had happened. Benjamin Taylor, Julian Taylor, Jefferson Taylor. Lancelot read the names through. He then laughed and said, "All right, we'll go with you." Benjamin Taylor was already an old man. The trouble lay with his two sons Julian Taylor and Jefferson Taylor. These two men were known to be well trained and strong, and average men were probably no match for them. However, that wasn't the case with Lancelot and Guinevere. Finn Taylor shook Felicity awake prior to the group setting off for the former's mansion to pick Wendy Jensen up. This was all done before heading to the Taylor family's residence. Wendy Jensen was nearly trembling in fear as she sat beside the couple. She naturally knew what her husband had done to the couple, yet her son had gotten into an alliance with them. What has he done all these years? Very quickly, the group arrived at the Taylor family's residence. As they got out of the car, they spotted Benjamin Taylor seated on the master's chair. Beside him stood his two sons. Wendy Jensen, you've been missing for a few days. I knew that you two were up to something. Since you're here, you better not even think of leaving. Finn Taylor chuckled and turned to Lancelot and Guinevere. They could have set up traps for us. Be careful. The couple inched forward and carefully entered the house. They glanced around, realizing that only the trio was present. But that's impossible. They already expected this to happen, so how could they not have set up any traps? But no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't detect any traps around. That's strange. Forget it, let's just fight it out. The couple charged forward, and the Taylor brothers didn't back down. Everything seemed unexpectedly normal, as though it was a fair fight. That's impossible. They already knew that we were going to come, so why would they make this a fair fight? Something is amiss. Yet, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The battle went on, and just as expected, the brothers were no match for the couple. The two men were already losing their energy. That was even more bizarre. If the brothers could win against the couple, it would make sense for them not to have placed any traps. Yet, their abilities were no match for the couple. Just as Finn Taylor was lost in his thoughts, he saw two needles fly silently toward Lancelot and Guinevere. No wonder it seemed like there was nobody else in this place. What they prepared weren't men but silent weapons. They want to kill Lancelot and Guinevere without anyone knowing. Fight! Finn Taylor rushed forward without any hesitation. These two needles didn't really matter to him, but his worry was that there would be more than just two needles. Things would take an awkward turn then. Just then, his greatest fear came true. Those two needles were only the beginning. Following that, needles were shot at Finn Taylor and the couple continuously. Thankfully, Finn Taylor was agile and managed to catch them all. However, they seemed to be coming at an even greater speed. It was now getting harder for him to catch the needles. Just as he caught one in front of him, one flew toward him from the back. He was about to turn around, but it was too late because a needle was headed for Guinevere. If he were to turn around and save himself from that needle, Guinevere would definitely die. Yet, he knew that he'd be seriously injured if he didn't turn around and catch that needle. Witnessing the scene, a smile spread across Felicity's face, the prettiest smile she had ever had in her life. She then rushed forward and took the blow for Master Peregrine. By the time the latter turned around, blood was spurting out from the woman. "Finn, can I call you that? Am I pretty?" Finn Taylor picked the woman up in his arms, who was towing the line between life and death. "Yes, you're beautiful. Felicity, you must pull through." "Thank you, Master. I'm really happy to have saved you." With that, she shut her eyes as her breathing gradually got shallower until it eventually stopped. Felicity was dead. Lancelot felt a murderous aura rise up within Finn Taylor the moment the woman took her last breath. It felt as though he was a demon from hell. Ah! A thunderous roar sounded in the Taylor family's residence before a bloody scene followed. 5 minutes later, Jefferson Taylor laid lifelessly on the ground while his brother was on the brink of death. As for Benjamin Taylor, he was still seated on the master's chair. However, he was no longer as arrogant as before. His hands and lips were trembling. "Finn Taylor, isn't he a piece of trash? Didn't everyone say that he's easily bullied? But why is he so strong? Why did he have to ask for Lancelot and Guinevere's help if he was so strong?" Benjamin Taylor was confused, but he didn't have any time to think more about it because a fist punched right at his face at that very moment. His entire chest caved in. Bang! Still full of indignation, Benjamin Taylor bent over and took his last breath. Seeing his father dead, Julian Taylorwo was already dying, lost his will to live. With that, all 3 men of that branch of the Taylor family were dead. From now on, Finn Taylor would head the family. Yet, just at that very moment, he fainted too. Finn Taylor was never as powerful as Lancelot or Guinevere. If he was, he wouldn't have asked for their help. Besides, he had been knocked out by the couple and had even thought that he would die from that blow. Yet, he had managed to defeat the Taylor brothers even though neither Lancelot nor Guinevere had been able to do so. One of the reasons was that Felicity was dead. She was an important woman to him. After all, she had been in his life ever since he was 6. Chicago was Finn Taylor's hometown, and having influence in the city was crucial to him. Considering how he had put Felicity in charge of the city, it was obvious that their relationship was different. But she was dead now, and it was Benjamin Taylor and his sons who had killed her. That was the last straw that broke Finn Taylor. Those men had to die, and that was what had led to this scene. "Shut the doors," ordered Lancelot and Guinevere. Wendy Jensen was slightly stumped. What do they want to do? "Didn't you hear me? I asked you to shut the doors." Terrified of the couple, Wendy Jensen could only do as they said. There were several men dead in the room, and Finn Taylor had fainted. The couple didn't dare to make their own decision. Thus, they chose to shut the doors and wait for Finn Taylor to wake. "Where's his room?" Wendy Jensen remained silent. "I asked you where his room is. He has fainted, and he needs some rest." Finally, Wendy Jensen said, "Follow me." Lancelot picked Finn Taylor up and followed Wendy Jensen. When they arrived in front of Finn Taylor's room, Lancelot nearly dropped the man to punch the latter's mother. It was a dilapidated and uninhabitable room. It wasn't even fit for a human. It was clearly a kennel. No matter what, Finn Taylor was the eldest grandson of the Taylor family. Yet, he was living in such conditions. Both Lancelot and Guinevere had doubted Finn Taylor in the beginning. How could he be living in such poor conditions? Yet, they now realized that the other wasn't lying. Perhaps Finn Taylor had even kept some of it to himself. He had probably faced much more injustice and had only told them part of it. Thinking about it, Lancelot and Guinevere glared at Wendy Jensen. "Go and tidy up a room for him." Huh, me. Wendy Jensen pointed at herself in disbelief. It seemed as though that was below her and that the request was an insult to her. However, she had no choice but to put down her pride when faced with the couple's furious glares. Even after placing Finn Taylor on the bed, the couple had no intention of leaving the room. That bothered Wendy Jensen. I'm his mother, but they're treating me as though I don't exist. To put it more accurately, they think of me as their enemy. Did they really think I'm going to do something to Finn? Did they think I'm going to kill him while he's out cold? As for the couple that had initially held a grudge against Finn Taylor, they had undergone a 180-degree change. Now, they stood firmly by his side to protect him. The world was a strange place indeed. How could this be happening? Let me ask you something. Since you hate Jacob Taylor so much, why did you agree to protect his son? Wendy Jensen could no longer hold her curiosity in. In that case, I should kill you first. Wendy Jensen couldn't pick out any flaw in that response. After all, Finn Taylor had still been young when his father dealt with the couple. This meant that he was innocent. However, she had been married to Jacob Taylor and had to bear responsibility for what her husband had done. Well, my husband is already dead. Why don't we let this matter go? Guinevere grabbed hold of the older woman's neck. And what if we refuse? Wendy Jensen had an awkward smile on her face. Don't. I'm Finn Taylor's mother, and we've already smoothed out our differences. Besides, I'm not like Jacob Taylor. I didn't have a say in whatever he did at that time. Guinevere tightened her grip, and Wendy Jensen felt as though she was going to suffocate. I'm begging you, don't kill me. Finally, Guinevere shoved the other away. How lame. I've seen too many so-called rich ladies like her. They always act so high and mighty, but they are actually all cowards. Wendy Jensen is no different. She seems like the matriarch of the family on the surface, but she surrendered right away before I even did anything. It was enough that she had chosen to surrender, but Guinevere had even seen the older lady bending her knees earlier. Guinevere was sure that the other woman would have gone down on her knees if she had given it more time. Guinevere was disdainful. I'll never forgive Jacob Taylor in this lifetime, so I'm never going to accept an apology from Wendy Jensen. To be honest, I don't feel much for Finn Taylor either. However, we have no choice but to protect him from Maximus Bruegel's sake. If we ever meet the latter again, we'll definitely ask to be released from this torture. Of course, neither Lancelot nor Guinevere would abandon Finn Taylor just yet. Time ticked by, and Master Peregrine finally awoke after several hours. He was still weak and dehydrated, and Guinevere handed him a glass of water. After taking a sip of water, Finn Taylor felt much better. How's Felicity? The couple shook their heads sadly. Although Finn Taylor had already expected that response, he had still held out some hope. Give her a good funeral and burial. Announce to the public that the three of them died from illnesses. Don't waste any time or effort on their funerals. There was too much involved in this drastic change in the Taylor family. There was no way Finn Taylor would let outsiders hear of what had truly happened. Finn Taylor kept a firm grip on a piece of candy. It was the piece of candy that the little girl had given him during his plane ride to Chicago. At that time, the candy had reminded him of Sarah Eden. It's been so many years. I wonder how she's doing now. Sarah Eden had been an important figure in his childhood, and she had brought light and hope to him. Finn Taylor arrived at his childhood friend's house and saw that the snack store that the family operated was still open. He sat down and said, "I'll have a donut." "Oh, okay," Sarah Eden's mother answered, but she suddenly felt that something was amiss. That voice sounds familiar. She turned around and realized that the man looked familiar too. However, she couldn't put a name to the face. Then, it suddenly struck her. Timothy Taylor. "Oh, you still remember me?" "Yes, of course." Sarah Eden's mother was emotional, and she rushed up to grab the man's hand. There were tears at the corner of her eyes, and she could hardly speak. "It's been a long time, Auntie." "Yes, long time no see." Although Finn Taylor had nothing to do with their family, he was a good friend of Sarah Eden. They shared a good relationship with each other. "Mom, who are you talking to?" Just then, Sarah Eden returned. There was a man behind her, and on the man's arm was a formidable-looking tattoo of a dragon. Of course, Finn Taylor didn't take him seriously. Tattoos like that were merely to scare others. They were shocked when they saw Finn Taylor. "Sarah, come and see who's here." The young lady peered over, feeling that the man in front of her was extremely stern. She looked closely at the man but couldn't put a name to his face. Finn Taylor pointed at the lollipops in the snack store. Timothy Taylor. She finally recognized him and rushed up to hug her childhood friend. But this angered the tattooed man behind her. Of course, he was overthinking it. There were absolutely no romantic feelings between Finn Taylor and Sarah Eden. They were no different from siblings. Who's he, Sarah? That tattooed man could no longer hold his curiosity in. Oh, he's my childhood friend. That simple answer only made the man hate Finn Taylor even more. Hey, what do you work as? Finn Taylor shrugged. Do I have to tell you about that? The tattooed man treated Finn Taylor hostilely, and the converse was true. Because of their friendship, Finn Taylor hoped that Sarah Eden would find a good boyfriend, not someone like this. What do you mean? Nothing much. Since you asked me about my job, you must have an impressive one. Oh, I'm part of Brother Knox's gang. Brother Knox, what's his full name? Knox Eden. Knox Eden. Finn Taylor frowned. Why have I never heard of him? Master Peregrine picked up his phone and dialed a number. Do you know of someone named Knox Eden? Ask him to come here now. I'll send you my location. As he hung up, he sent the other his whereabouts. The other man couldn't help but sneer. I'm clearer than anyone about how powerful Knox Eden is. Besides, that man isn't the highest in rank as Dirk Larson. The latter is the true boss. Who did you call? Are you trying to frighten me? No, I wouldn't waste my time on you. I just want to get to know the Brother Knox you're talking about. Finn Taylor turned to his friend. Sarah, I don't think you found yourself a good boyfriend. Sarah Eden was slightly awkward, and she remained silent. That only deepened Finn Taylor's curiosity. Is there something more to this? I have to get to the bottom of it. Auntie, I'll have a donut. I'm starving. The older lady nodded and quickly brought his order over. As she did so, she quietly warned Finn Taylor, why don't you leave first? You're no match for them. It was exactly because of what she had said that the man knew that something was amiss. I can't leave now. I have to know what's going on. It's been 10 minutes. Didn't you ask Brother Knox to come? Why isn't he here yet? Finn Taylor wiped his mouth as he finished his donut. Thank you for the reminder. Master Peregrine then took out an hourglass timer and placed it on the table. Every time I flip this hourglass, I'll chop off a finger from your Brother Knox's hand. His words scared Sarah Eden. Finn, you're kidding, right? Her boyfriend sneered. Why are you so gullible, Sarah? Are you stupid? Don't you know how powerful Brother Knox is? Because of what her boyfriend had said, she started doubting her friend and fearing for his safety. Just then, a BMW stopped in front of the store. Both Sarah Eden and her boyfriend recognized it was Brother Knox's. Hey, why is Brother Knox here? The couple gave it some thought and came to the same conclusion: it was pure coincidence. There was no way Finn Taylor could have summoned the other here. You're lucky. It was almost time to turn the hourglass, Finn Taylor said as he picked said item up. As Brother Knox walked over, his face was void of any expression. After that, he immediately fell to the ground in front of Finn Taylor. Mr. Taylor, I don't know how I've offended you, but since you said that I've done something wrong, I must have. Knox Eden's words stumped both Sarah Eden and her boyfriend. Isn't Knox Eden the most powerful around the area? But he rushed over just because of Finn Taylor's call and even kneeled down to apologize without even knowing what he's done wrong. You haven't done anything wrong, but he says he knows you. Finn Taylor pointed at Sarah Eden's boyfriend, whose name was Calvin Lowe. Knox Eden glared at him. How I wish I could kill this man right now. It's this bast who offended Finn Taylor, and he even dragged me into this. Just because of him, Finn Taylor now hates me. I even had to kneel down to him. Knox Eden, I've heard all about you. Apparently, nobody dares to provoke you around here. I think your lackey here has done something wrong. Why don't I help to get rid of him? No, there's no need for that. I'll do it myself. Knox Eden was on the verge of tears. There is no way I'd ask Finn Taylor to get rid of my men. Given Finn Taylor's abilities, Knox Eden was sure that he'd be left with no subordinates. May I stand up, Mr. Taylor? Sure, I didn't even ask you to kneel. Knox Eden bowed respectfully at the other man as he stood up. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Following that, he took hesitant steps toward Calvin Lowe. Calvin, are you going to own up to what happened, or do you need me to beat you up first? Calvin Lowe was on the verge of a breakdown. I can't tell him about what I did. If I do, he'll definitely kill me. Brother Knox, I didn't do anything. Calvin Lowe could only try to shirk all responsibility. He wasn't going to admit to anything if the other didn't have any evidence. Oh, so you think that my words don't mean a thing anymore? Brother Knox took a few more hesitant steps toward Calvin Lowe. This terrified the latter. He didn't have an ounce of courage when faced with his boss since he had personally witnessed the latter beating others to death. He didn't want his life to end that way. There was no way the man would have risen through the ranks to the top if he wasn't capable. He was really no match for Knox Eden. Brother Knox, I'll tell you everything. Eventually, Calvin Lowe broke down and crumpled onto the ground. I threatened her to be my girlfriend with her family's lives. Knox Eden's eyes were filled with fury. Although he was a gang leader, he would never hurt anyone in the area. All he had done was ensure the security of the area so that the residents would thank him and pay him for his efforts. That was the difference between him and other gang leaders. Knox Eden had always believed in karma. If he bullied the residents, he was bound to pay for it one day. However, Calvin Lowe had gone against his ideals, and he naturally wouldn't keep someone like that under his wings. Alright, let's see if I kill you today, Calvin Lowe. The latter retreated and suddenly said, I'm Dirk Larson's brother-in-law. Dirk Larson was Knox Eden's boss, and he had indeed gotten a new wife recently, Calvin Lowe's sister. Calvin Lowe revealed this, believing that the other wouldn't dare to touch him. Otherwise, Dirk Larson would definitely hold him accountable if anything happened. As expected, those words made Knox Eden stop in his tracks. This pleased Calvin Lowe. He must be scared now. I was worried I wouldn't get the chance to turn the tides and become Knox Eden's boss, but my chance is here. But what Calvin Lowe didn't know was that Knox Eden hadn't stopped because he was afraid of the former or Dirk Larson, but because he thought that Calvin Lowe was retarded. I've already tried to help him. Knox Eden turned to Finn Taylor. Mr. Taylor. Finn Taylor nodded. Knox Eden picked up the phone and made a call to Dirk Larson. Dirk, Mr. Taylor wants you to come down. You'll find out what's going on once you're here. For some reason, Dirk Larson couldn't help but feel uneasy about the call. Master Peregrine had called him earlier on, asking if he knew Knox Eden. He also requested the latter to meet him. When I heard Finn Taylor's tone, it seemed like he was slightly mad. But now, his target has changed. Finn Taylor now wants to meet me. What is Knox up to? Just you wait, brat. I want all of you dead once Dirk Larson comes. And you, Knox Eden. Do you think you're brilliant? I used to be afraid of you, but now that I have Dirk Larson supporting me, I want nothing to do with you. Let's wait and see how you'll die once my brother-in-law comes. Knox Eden sneered inwardly. How I'll die? What a great question. However, I can't wait to see how Dirk Larson dies because of you. Before long, another car arrived in front of the snack store. Both Knox Eden and Calvin Lowe recognized it was Dirk Larson's. Calvin Lowe rushed up emotionally to help his brother-in-law open the door. Brother Dirk, you have to save me. Knox Eden wants to kill me. Kill him. Dirk Larson was stumped. Although Knox is one of my subordinates, he is different from the others. He is peace-loving and would never try to kill anyone. What's going on? What's going on, Knox? Dirk Larson, I heard that he's your brother-in-law, Finn Taylor casually said. It was only then that Dirk Larson spotted the man. He rushed up to the ladder and bowed respectfully. Hello, Mr. Taylor, but you must be joking. I found a new woman recently, but she isn't his biological sister. She's just his cousin, so he isn't really my brother-in-law. Oh, but he's still your relative. Your brother-in-law is really something. Master Peregrine pointed at the snack store owner. He threatened my friend and my auntie with their lives so that she'd be his girlfriend. Well, I've been away from Chicago for too long, and my subordinates don't know me anymore. They even think that they can bully my friends. Each word was like a stab to Dirk Larson's heart, and he couldn't wait to rip his brother-in-law to shreds. Of all people to offend, the latter has offended Finn Taylor. The image of Finn Taylor killing others on that rainy night years ago was still fresh in his mind. He didn't want to become yet another victim of this man. Wait for next part.